for the opportunity to be here. We ask and pray, oh Father, that you just give us guidance and the necessary direction so we can make decisions on the things that we need to make. We thank you, Lord, for allowing us to come out of Easter Resurrection Sunday, Father. We thank you for all the things that it represents, and we're praying, oh Father, that you just continue to guide our country, and guide our state, and our town, our city, our county, in a way to where you'll get the glory. And Father, we're praying that as our members are coming and others that are coming to the meeting, give them traveling grace, allow them to make it here safe. And we pray that once everything is done, you'll give us traveling grace to go our separate ways and find things in order. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
What we'll do, and I'm just kind of moving right along here, we'll see if we get some other members here. We can, I don't think there's anything in the board order that we just got to approve right now. We can move on to, I don't know if we got any citizens here that just ran and itching to speak, but since we got Mr. Craig here, we just gonna call him up. I think he's gonna more or less a discussion and kind of talk and give us some updates on some things as it relates to our community project funding and strategic initiatives and all those things. So Mr. Craig, come on around.
Thank you, I appreciate it. As always, enjoy coming up here to see you guys. Looking forward to what we're going to do in the future. Hey Ben, how are you doing? Can you hear me? Oh, excuse me. Hey, the lawman's sneaking up behind me. I better watch out. Well, I wanted to give you guys an update on what we've done this year. As I think we had previously reported, our fiscal year 24 request did not get approved. I think that went to Michael Guest. It was for a community building. And so what we decided to do was resubmit that. That was due last week to Michael Guest, and then we will also submit it to our senators. They haven't announced when their due date deadlines are, so as soon as they do, we'll do that. But that is a project that's in the Transportation and Housing of Urban Development Bill, and it was, the dollar amount on that was $3.8 million, and it's 100% federally funded, so there isn't any cost share associated with that. If we can get that passed for fiscal year 25, we'll be in good shape. And so that would be moving forward.
I want to ask, did he give any reason why they didn't fund it?
So usually we don't get much of a reason or explanation on that. I think that Tibahaw County got another one, a water bill. I forget what that was. I can probably pull that up real quick. But it was approved. And that wasn't one that Pickering had worked on or submitted. But it's going to take me just a second.
I remember the awarding of the project for Artesia Road. I don't know whether that had anything to do with it.
No, that was different, but
Artesia Road extension, I know.
this one
Now,
was
is that the Bluefield one?
right.
Exactly.
Exactly.
Okay.
Bluefield.
Oh, the stag grant. Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah, the 1.5
stag
stag
grant.
grant.
Yes.
Okay.
Sorry about that. Thank you, Delos. You always count on her to know everything. But so anyway, usually a county or Michael Guest, you know, a congressman will get like one per area, per municipality. And so that was the one that you guys probably got this go around. But so, you know, one of the main reasons I'm up here is to see what other projects you guys might want to pursue. And then secondly, if we're going to make a run to Washington and visit our congressional folks up there on their court, who might want to go and what dates you might want to go. And I think Jeff had mentioned some dates. I think we were originally thinking latter part of May, but I think early June is probably the best. First week of June, June 3rd, I think, is the Monday that y'all will probably have a board meeting on that day. But Senator Wicker does a Mississippi Mornings program on Tuesdays, and it's like at 8:30 in the morning, and it's a great time if you can be up there Monday afternoon, Monday evening, and be in place to attend that. It's an informal event that he does. It's kind of a little breakfast, but all of his staffers are there. he'll come in, have a few words on what's going on in the Senate and things that he's working on. But you'll get your picture made with him if you want to as a board. But you know, it's just a good time to deal with his staffers. They're really the guys behind the scenes, guys and gals behind the scenes. They're you know, getting all of the things done. And so something to consider. That second week, I think it's June 10th, is also available. Both houses will be in session on June 10th.
Meeting that week, I know. The summer conference for supervisors that week.
Oh, is that when?
Yeah, the association.
MAS.
MAS.
Right.
That week.
I'm glad you said that, because that would be a conflict for me too. That would be down at that. So it sounds like maybe June 3rd, that week. We usually stay a couple of nights. During that trip, we would also probably schedule a meeting with Under Secretary Homer Wilkes. He's been instrumental in your dam rehab project, and while we don't have anything, Pickering doesn't have anything to do on that, it would be a good opportunity for you guys to sit down with him and give him an update and let him know how things are going. Tell him we appreciate his efforts on that.
I know that first week of June I won't be available, but some of the other board members may be able to go. I certainly encourage you all to go, especially the two new ones, Mr. Ben and Ms. Pat, if you can. I think that'll be a good experience, and maybe Rob, you may go, or Mr. Lois, or whomever.
Rob, you've been up there a time or two with us. So.
I think listen, if you don't go and you're not asking, you're not in front of your representatives, you're not going to get anything done. That's just the truth. So I encourage anybody who can go. This is not a vacation. I've had people make a comment to me. They think you're spending county money on a vacation. This is not a vacation. This is a work trip, and I promise you'll be working the entire time you're there. It's a lot compressed into 2 days.
Right. We usually try and budget two nights out of town. Sometimes we've done 3, just whatever works.
Who would be the lead on this for y'all?
It would be Jeff. Matter of fact, Jeff is on his way to Mississippi now from Colorado. He's coming in this evening. But Jeff and Carl Ray, he would probably be there, have some level of involvement. So.
Now on the 3.8 transportation, was that anything specific, or was that just a project in general?
No, that was for the community building. That
Community building. Okay.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Would it be helpful for us to have more information on that building to push this forward, or is it just a very generic?
So the submittal was fairly generic, but what we would need to do is really, by the time the Senate requests come out, pinpoint a location and be a little bit more specific on exactly what we're trying to ask for.
I think there was maybe 2 or 3 buildings in different places in the county.
It was a couple of buildings across the county. We were, using quite a few of the buzzwords: ADA compliance, energy efficiency, and that sort of thing. But it would be better if we could be, the more specifics, the better.
Would there also be some opportunity, and I guess you're talking about projects, I know the county building is one of our priorities as it relates to multi-purpose building, or whatever. What's the proper name for the building? What would it be?
Justice Complex.
Justice Complex? For the Justice Complex building. So I guess trying to find out if there's some more funding with HUD or someone like that that could give us some support on that.
Yeah, there's through the Homeland Security and Department of Justice, there is some available funding for communications and technology upgrades. I think for a different county last year we had requested $1.1 million, and that was awarded for George County. So there are some, I'm not sure if it's structures that you're talking about, but there are funding opportunities for the technology.
Right.
you know, that supports your law enforcement offices and your 911 and that sort of thing too, so.
Of course, you know, we're always interested in road and bridge. We got a bridge that's out.
Okay, well, that would be, yeah, I'm glad you mentioned that, because that was where we would start probably. We've been pretty successful with, also through the transportation bill, for roads and bridges, bridge repairs. Those that are, you know, for regular automobiles can pass, but heavy trucks loaded down with, you know, pine trees and everything that are underrated. So that's something that we've pursued.
Would it help if one is completely shut down currently?
It would, yes.
We got one.
Well, let me write the name of that one down.
And we've submitted some applications for funding for it, and have been turned down for 3 years in a row, and it's really impacting the community.
What are y'all calling that? And look, Dolores, I had written Bluff Lake Road right here, but what are you calling that?
It's Morgantown Bridge.
Morgantown Bridge.
Yeah, the pilings underneath it rusted all the way through, and it's in a curve, so the road has to be straightened out. And we have all the engineering work done on it.
Right.
We just need the funding like as soon as possible.
Well, that
Because it is truly causing a big issue.
That sounds like it would be prime to pursue. So we'll start working on that and get some of the details. Who would have, like, who did the engineering on it, and who could we get with to
Clive Richard.
just to get the basics, you know? Right. We had talked about that Bluff Lake Road rehab that goes down to the refuge.
Refuge. What did
Any
that?
interest on that, or
Well,
I
I'm
think
sure
that
that'd be-
just kind of, that was submitted by Fish and Wildlife Service. We weren't involved again on
Right.
that, but it was submitted, and it was something on your radar, and I don't think it ever,
Yeah, I would think we could.
would that
continue
be one
also.
that you'd want to also? So we
Even
limit
still,
ourselves usually to one request for the Congress side, for Congressman Guest. But with the Senate side, they have a little more flexibility, and so we can usually go for maybe a high priority and a couple of other lower priorities, but those that are noteworthy. So that might be one. You know, we would want y'all to decide. It sounds like the Morgantown Bridge would be the highest
Right,
priority.
that's pretty tough.
And then, if you wanted to mention that Bluff Lake Road project, if nothing was ever done on that, we could list that as a secondary.
And there's some other opportunities through the National Park Service that I need to get you connected with, and they have some opportunities over there. And I'll probably send you an email with some information on that, so you can look at that and see if that's maybe something we can co-mingle or coordinate together.
Right, okay, sure, and, as you mentioned the National Park Service, there's funding out there for historical building rehabilitation. Sometimes you can be biting off more than you really want to chew.
Right, we're
on
dealing with
those.
that somewhat now, but we want to try to, I guess, I don't know whether we want to jump into it head first, but that may be an option
Right,
in relation to this justice complex.
okay.
Because we're looking at a building, an existing building that's there, but it's
Can you purchase dynamite with it?
If archives and history will just turn the other way, usually not, but
No, I'm teasing.
yeah.
Kinda.
Let me make a note.
and as it relates to that, we've hired the services of Major Designs. They're working with us on that.
Right, and we're familiar with them. Our environmental group has worked with
Okay, good.
Major Designs before, renovation projects. We have a little environmental group that does asbestos and lead paint and all that kind of stuff. So the engineering stuff on it, we're not the contractor on it, but we're familiar with those guys. So, hey, what dates are you thinking? Are you wanting to commit to a date today, or you want to let me know? We usually on those trips, the county pays for hotel airfare, but we'll kind of do the, make the hotel reservations and identify the best flights and that sort of thing, and help you out as much as possible. And then once you get there, we take care of the logistics.
Well, I know I won't be able to go in June at all, but maybe I can make it squeeze, but the other members may be able to, so.
There's another week that's available in May. It's May 20th. I'm not sure if Jeff would be available on that week, but both houses would be in session the 21st through the 24th. So something to consider.
But if you make it that time, I probably can commit, but other than that, I know we'll be able to go in June at all. But now we talk with President and Vice President.
Right.
You commit right now.
Yeah, May might work out better, because there's a lot of committed in June.
Right. Yeah, once June rolls around, it seems like we're kind of rolling it.
So just let us know when we need to make that determination, and we'll go from there.
Okay, yeah, I will do that. So, the Morgantown Bridge sounds like the highest priority. We'll resubmit it's really an economic development initiative program as a classification that county services building is in. So when Senate deadlines come out, we'll have that, ready to submit to them as well. Probably be sending you guys some letters of support, if the community or other elected officials are interested or behind a project, that also carries a little bit of weight. So.
Now these won't be grants. We will be going after a congressional appropriate earmark.
Community funded project.
Community funded project.
So the bridge is under a community funded project?
We would put that in there as well.
So it would help to have letters from the community?
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, or a business, somebody that has to detour 22 miles around it or whatever it
Yeah,
is.
they have a church that they have planted down there, and it has detrimentally impacted that whole community,
Right.
because they have people that have to drive, on Sunday morning when you gotta go 25 minutes out of the way one way. I mean,
That's an impact, for sure. Yeah, that certainly would be a benefit.
Yeah, they got family members, that they have elder care for and that they have to take care of, and then if you have a medical emergency, they have to go, 25 minutes out of the way to get over there, instead of going across there. It's really detrimental to that community.
Well, that would strengthen our request, for sure.
That sounds good. I think that'll be great. Do you have to, and I guess, I know it's competitive in a sense, but how much information do you need on it? Do you need someone to do a survey of the area, do a study of the area, to get all this stuff compiled in some kind of document or some type of file where they can attach it to your request? I mean, how much?
I think Mr. Pritchard has done more than adequate, and so we'll just pick out some details. When we submit these requests, it's kind of like the highlights. We write up, a paragraph or two and answer some specific questions. And then what they do is when it goes to committee, if they have any questions or need additional information, they usually call Jeff directly. The staffers will call Jeff and say, hey, I don't understand this, or what's this, or do you have is there a missing piece? And then we'll submit that as well. So at this point, I think we're being pretty good shape. Yeah. And again, it's that, as Rob mentioned, when you're in your meeting in Washington with the staffers and the senator, that's when you really get to lay out, the impacts of a closed bridge or, any other highlights about a project that you want to mention.
That sounds good. Sounds good. I know with all the social media going on, I think that'll be, and I'm sure there's a lot of social media activity concerning that bridge as far as people.
Right.
And I think that's a good response to let them know. Hey, write a letter, detailing the inconvenience of it, and how it's going to be beneficial and everything. Put it all together.
Right.
And I think that helps strengthen your case.
It would, without a doubt.
One of the,
But we don't want to, we don't want to say for sure it's going to happen. We want to say this is what we're shooting for.
Right.
One of the things that make this bridge different than any other bridge, though, is the fact that they're having to take a curve out of it, and we're having to make sure that we're getting easements and all this kind of stuff to make this operate. But it's making the bridge itself cost a lot more than it would have costed. So we're being put in a situation from a county standpoint where we're trying our best to get the money available for it, but it's just it's a lot.
Right.
This is not a regular bridge issue. It's a new construction of a road to the bridge.
Right.
It's completely different.
Not just a standard
Right.
bridge replacement. Has there been a cost estimate put on that?
A lot.
Do you know?
This-
People don't want to say the actual number, but it's a lot.
Yeah.
It's close to $7 million.
Okay, yeah, that's not,
It's close to $7 million, and that is probably gonna be the minimum estimate.
yeah, we usually try and shoot between 3 to 5 million for projects, but on a bridge or a road or something like that, especially something that's fits into this category, we can probably, we don't want to say,
Good morning.
hey, good morning. Glad you
All right,
could join us.
It's in your hands when you get.
All right.
We,
Keep on rolling. Good morning.
you know,
everybody.
we try not to use the phrase, the phrase phase project, phase 1 or phase 2, but we can usually break a project down into some bite-sized pieces to get, what we need.
And what's like the timeline? How does that shake out?
So, if we make this request for fiscal year 25, it would probably be, if all goes according to plan, Congress would act on it by the end of the year, then money they'd act on it by the end of September. And so then the money would be obligated and the process would be underway. The county would get that funding pretty quickly. Now,
Immediately.
what happened, this year, this year is an election year, so it's kind of, all bets are off. But, we went through 3 or 4 continuing resolutions, and Congress didn't approve fiscal year 24 bills until the very end of February, early March, first weekend in March. So all the projects that had been approved, funding was held up until they acted on them. And so that could happen again. It may not. Strange things happen in election years. Sometimes everybody wants to be the hero and go home and say, look what I did, and things happen. So
if the sun, the moon, and the stars align, and they approved it, and they acted on it in September, funds would be available to start when?
First part of next year, I would say, yeah. So, but there is a whole process of, it would go to MDOT, and then it would be allocated to the county, and then MDOT would, there's a whole administrative process to get it from MDOT to your county, to your engineer, and then out from it. So, it's still pretty slow moving sequence.
Well, we certainly appreciate you being here. Do you need anything, any directive from us?
No, I'll be in touch. If y'all can just kind of firm up those dates, and I'll be in touch with B.O.S or Jeff will, and we'll start framing up these other 2 projects that we were talking about. So that'd be good. If we went to Washington, that would give us 2 new projects to talk about, a recap or an update for the dam project with Undersecretary Wilkes, and then follow up on our submitted for Michael Guest.
He's referring to going to D.C. I think he mentioned the first week of June.
Okay.
I know himself, this looks like it's going to be bad for us, but now whatever's good for.
Yeah,
First week of June. I don't see any conflict.
Okay. And then there was another week, it was May 21st, sometime the week of May 21st.
You said you all have conflict with
Right.
the first week in June.
Now with the
June 10th, and June 10th, we'd also mentioned, but I think that's
Yeah, we're gonna be on the coast.
We're on the coast.
Supervisors conference.
Well, what about the May?
It's fine with me. I just can't.
I was just thinking, I think
But whatever's good for you.
Jeff might have a conflict. Jeff Ballweber
Okay.
with that last week in May, so, but I'll double check with him. I'm gonna see him tonight.
Well, I mean, if I have to go in June, that's fine. We'll make it happen.
Right.
Maybe Joe or Kenny, or whatever. Whomever, so.
All right.
Well,
Well, we serve you guys, so let us know what you wanna do. And we'll make it happen.
Well, I'd just like to make a motion that we acknowledge the report from Pickering Firm as it relates to our community project funding request.
Okay, motion by Supervisor Trainer, second by Supervisor Little to acknowledge the report from Pickering. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes
Thank
unanimously.
you guys.
Thank you so much.
Enjoyed it. Appreciate your time.
Okay. Supervisor Carver? Okay, in favor? Unanimous. All righty. Well, apparently we're down to Attorney Julie Brown.
Before you go, Mr. President, we didn't approve the 2024 board order,
Okay.
but we
okay.
can, I'd like to make a motion that we approve the 2024 board order.
It's been motioned to approve the 2024 board orders. All in favor? Motion by Supervisor Trainer, second by Supervisor Little. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously. Okay, I'm assuming we've had the citizens comment here. Let's just start then. We have had the prayer. Okay, good. All right, we'll open it up now for a citizens comment period. Anyone that would like to approach the board and talk to us for up to 3 minutes can do so. Morning, Supervisor.
Good morning,
Williams.
Where we?
Seeing that there is nobody to make citizens comment, we move forward. We just heard from Kurt Craig. Now we're down to Attorney Julie Brown at 44 Properties, and it seems we're running a little ahead of schedule maybe. Eric Davis, MDRS.
Yes, good morning.
Good morning, how you doing?
Doing good. I have Eric Davis with me. My name is Billy Taylor. I'm with
Morning,
the
Mr.
Mississippi
Taylor.
Department of Rehab Services. How are you doing this morning?
Doing great, how about yourself?
Oh, doing good. Appreciate y'all hearing from us. So we have a request this morning we were hoping to make to you guys, but I guess first I'd like to give a little just background of what we do at our agency. So we are the Mississippi Department of Rehabilitation Services, and we're the state agency that helps Mississippians with disabilities. So we have about 50 offices around the state. We have one district office here in Starkville. We have about 15 what we call ability works around the state. So those are community rehab centers where we take an individual with disability and try to get them prepared to enter the workforce. So here in Starkville at our ability works is actually a building that we rent from you guys, have for a long time. But we do a bunch of contract work. We have contracts with PACCAR, Plymouth Tube, Stark Aerospace, the university. We do like light industrial work that helps people with disabilities get prepared for entering the workplace. So they may spend a week there, sometimes they may spend 2 or 3 months there doing this kind of light industrial work, getting them ready for our counselors to help them enter the workforce. So we entered a lease with you guys decades ago. Our 1993 is our current lease date. So it was a 20-year lease. It expired in 2013, and then it had an automatic 20-year renewal that went into place in 2013. So I believe we're under a lease with you guys for another, 10 years or so, 2033. We currently don't pay any rent. We've been there for a long time, and I guess the thought was that we're serving, citizens of Ottawa County that have disabilities, and you guys would provide the building, and we would, stay there, provide the services. But now that the building's getting pretty old, it has a lot of issues that we would like to have addressed, and we're willing to enter into a new lease with you guys, and we would be okay with covering the cost of whatever it takes to get the building renovated and get those issues addressed. So that's what I'm here today to make that request. What steps would be necessary in order to have the county handle a renovation of the building, and then pass that cost on to us through a new 20-year lease. So we could just void the current lease that we have in place where we're not paying any rent, put a new lease, sign a new lease between our agency and you guys for a new duration, I guess roughly 20 years or so, or we would make it a net zero transaction for the county. But our request would be that you guys handle the renovation, and then we'll of course cover that cost throughout the terms of the lease payments over the 20 years. So that's basically the request. I know it's kind of brushed over what we do at the agency, so definitely would like to entertain any questions you may have, or if I can clear up any part of that request, be glad to do so.
All right, when you say, have y'all identified what you want to do? Do you have anything that would show us cost-wise, that kind of stuff?
Sorta. So we have a contractor on contract, basically like a consultant, that has looked at a lot of our buildings, and what we want done at the building is not, I wouldn't say a super substantial renovation. We just need I'd say only maybe 15 or 20% of the building is office space. We would like that office space renovated, and then the other 80% is workshop floor, which there's not much we need done there other than like we need new lighting throughout. Like we run a lot of forklifts in there, and the lighting is very, very low, and it's really hard to navigate forklifts through the building. And all the industrial like garage doors are old and not working properly. So the initial look that we had our contractor do, it didn't seem like that substantial of a renovation. But as he was looking at it, he was like, he said there's a lot of like life safety issues. Like the electrical is really old and outdated and not going to be up to code. The fire system needs to be updated. He was saying there's a lot of like, just deeper issues than just the cosmetic things that our staff would like done. So our wish list isn't necessarily huge, but I think the things that need to be done in order to pull the permits and do the work is probably going to be the more substantial.
How do you guys get funded?
So we get, we're about 80% federally funded. So we get about $35 million a year in state funds and about $220 million a year in federal funds.
To that one location?
No.
Okay.
Statewide, yeah, sorry.
All right, I was trying to catch up with you.
No. So that's our state agency funding. So this is, we have 15 locations like Disability Works and about 50 offices. So it's all, mostly federal funds that fund this facility. But
all right, I would ask y'all to get a budget together as to what y'all can afford to do, and so that we could prepare to figure out what it needs to be done so it could be presented to them, and so that we could balance this out. We obviously don't want to make money off this deal. That's not what would be the intent, but to make certain that we're not we aren't doing too much that would put too much of an overload on y'all, but on the same token won't put an overload on us to actually get renovations done. Could y'all help us kind of put that together and tell us what you want, what it would cost, and then what you can afford to cover, and that way we can roll with it?
Yes, we can do that.
I mean, I think that assuming that I'm not overplaying my hand here.
Yeah, we can get some numbers in front of us, cost of that renovation, then that would give us a better idea of,
okay.
Like our attorney is saying, if we want to try to spread this over 20 years.
Yeah, and I can provide the report that the contractor put together for us, and it was, I would say it's kind of like a back of a napkin kind of report. He went out there and just kind of spent a few hours walking the building, and this isn't like, he didn't get quotes on all these subs coming in. He was just trying to find a general idea of what it would cost and, what the wish list was.
Yeah. Would our building person need to come out and look at the building?
We can have them to come out, but if we could get something a little bit more legit than just a rough estimate, something with some specifications and things of that nature. It doesn't have to be engineer status, but at least some specifications and
Yeah,
the
I can provide
size
this.
of the.
Okay, yeah, I can provide. Here's a 3-page report here that kind of lays out what he thinks needs to be done in the building. But our request would be for you guys to handle the. We're not in the.
That's what I was going. I'd like to make the suggestion rather, that we maybe contact Major Designs to get them to assist us with possible renovation of that particular building as it relates to this whole process, because we have to handle it. We got to go through the bidding process and all this kind of stuff like we would on anything else. And I guess it's what you're asking. it would be easier for us to let you handle it, but I don't think we'll be able to do it, and that's not what you're asking, I guess.
Right, yeah, I would love for you guys to handle it and we'll pay for it. That's the general request.
Okay.
We got a motion by Supervisor Trainer to contact Major Designs to develop a quote for the renovation. Second by Supervisor Little. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Motion carries unanimously.
Alright,
Okay.
thank y'all. So will they be in touch with us, or do I need to reach out to Major Designs, or what will we do?
I'll reach out to them. I have Mr. Davis' email, so
Okay.
I'll make a connection.
Great.
Thank you, we appreciate all you all do.
I just wonder whether this would result into a 10-year lease agreement or a 20-year lease agreement. 20 years is a long time. But this is a 20-year lease agreement that you're asking for.
Well, that's what we currently have, and I guess it would depend on the cost. I mean, if it's not gonna be a super substantial cost and we could afford it over 10 years, we could do 10 years. But if it's gonna be a $3 or $4 million renovation, maybe we'd like to put it over 20, but I guess we would, want to see what the cost is going to be and then make that decision of how far
You
out.
all offer great service. Thank you for your service.
Oh yeah,
I would
appreciate
think
it.
that we would renew your lease agreement. It just seems like it should be a break in there, and there's somewhere.
Yes, okay, that sounds great. Yeah. All
Really appreciate you coming.
Yeah, thank y'all, appreciate it.
Next on our agenda, we see that Attorney Brown has made it. Would you come forward and speak to the board?
I apologize.
Good morning.
On my calendar, I had the meeting starting at 9 o'clock, so I very much apologize. I could have been here at 8. Hopefully, you've been able to read through the information, the packet. Roy Oswalt, you may know, is a retired professional baseball player, and he's one of the few professional athletes that actually has invested well with his money and wants to continue to do so, and was very excited about retiring here in our community and investing in our community, which is really wonderful. And what he has done, and you all have seen the old Val's grocery store, which has gotten into bad disrepair. So he wanted to renovate that and put in a new grocery store. But unfortunately, COVID hit during all of that, trying to get it renovated, and had a potential client. They were actually renovating the store to their specifications. But then Aldi's came in. And it was interesting, the grocery stores, it's like a broker that finds grocery stores. And anyway, the chain that they were interested in backed out. They said it was saturated. They'd have to get, our community would have to get bigger in order to handle another one. So that left them with this giant empty space. They had to then take out the renovations they made for the grocery store to try to accommodate something else with that kind of square footage, which is huge. So what he's dealing with right now is Miss Kelly Furniture, which is out of Jackson, a family-owned business. And they are we're just on the fence here with this. What's wonderful is they could have gone to Oxford or Columbus, and what we're finding now is Starkville is really becoming a go-to place, and in great part because of the university, the retirement community, all that's going on here. So, and you may have driven by and seen, he has, Ace Hardware's already gone in there, and then on the other side will be Dollar Tree, which is the second Dollar Tree in town. And we're excited about that because that does give the communities around there a place to shop. Now, I know they don't have, we're talking about hot food or anything like that, but they do have household staples, canned food, things like that. And so that's pretty much done. The problem is when you have commercial leases like that, the renters pay the property taxes and for the hazard, the fire insurance and all. That's a lot different than a residential lease. So a big player in this is seeing if we can get the county to abate and forgive the property taxes for a period of 10 years. That will go a great length into getting Miss Kelly to go ahead and commit to an initial 5-year lease with a renewal of another 5 years, and maybe 2 of those renewals to stay here. The job growth here will be between 20, maybe 25 jobs. And what's nice is this is not college kid jobs where you're working at a gift store. This is anywhere from delivery trucks, drivers, people delivering furniture. They actually will have sales people for the furniture. Y'all have been in a sales furniture store. It's like going to the car dealership. That type of salesperson's there. And then Ace Hardware too, with cashiers, stockers, things like that, and then Dollar Tree. So it's going to have a big range of part-time, full-time jobs, jobs with benefits, and also different salaries, a good range of salaries. One interesting thing about this too is that parking lot, if you've seen it, with the city requirements, Roy's referred to as the nice park that he's put in there, but costs have gone up and up and up on this project, especially with COVID and then all the other requirements. So he's happy to get something in there, but he has borrowed probably another $1 million more than he expected in order to complete the project. So if you look at that parking lot, it joins, and there's reciprocal easements with nukes and all the little strip things there, all using that parking lot, benefited those stores as well. And of course, if you're going to go to nukes, you might go, gee, let's go into Ace Hardware. They all kind of help feed on one another. One wonderful thing about this project, and what we believe makes it eligible for the county's consideration, is the fact that it took an empty building like that, just like Mark Castleberry changed that Garin building that could have been empty for 10 years. You've seen cities like that where it's just a blight. But it encourages developers to buy a property like this and fix it and make it viable to the community, bring in new jobs. It brought in it looks new. That part of the strip looks new now. And so it encourages developers to do that. And somebody commented, well, doesn't Mr. Oswalt have plenty of money? Well, that's the purpose of development, is to make money. I mean, it's not habitat for retail. They're wanting to make a profit. So the rents, this makes a huge difference on the type of renter we get, and then also on the profitability. And again, he's borrowed a lot more. He's borrowed more than he purchased the building for to fix it up, and the sidewalk and all of that was entailed. So it will encourage, hopefully, other developers to see other places like that in Starkville or out in the county and say, gee, I might be able to fix that and make this better for the community. And of course, I have to admit, the bottom line is to make a little money. Now, by giving up, so to speak, the property taxes, I also provided a list of what the projected annual sales are on these things, on the businesses. This is what the businesses themselves gave us, and their inventory. The county will benefit from the inventory taxes, and also there will be personal property taxes for the equipment and the shelving and all of that that's in the place. As I'm sure y'all know, the school tax will remain, and as the assessed value goes up, the school taxes will go up, and they'll continue to pay those. That will be included in the rent. So what we've asked here is that the county, you're all familiar with this, I'm sure, with Joe Max Higgins, who probably puts on a more entertaining presentation than I do. Maybe less, I'm a little less colorful too. But it does, just as industry does and manufacturing, this is the same opportunity for the county to help a retail, a big business like this, and without that TIF bond and that type of thing that was involved with the Castleberry, with the new Marshalls and all like that. They also provided me, I've got a thing there showing the amount of money that our county is losing because we don't have a furniture store here. You know, Rick's went out of business some time ago. And this is a totally different type of furniture store. Probably a little bit more high dollar, but we really are losing a lot of business to people going to other counties to buy furniture, to other cities and so forth. So what we're asking then is respectfully for the board to approve our request for an abatement of the county taxes for the next 10 years. And I'm not sure how that begins, I'll be honest with you. I think he hopes if Ms. Kelly signs on this, they'll probably be in by July 1st. But if not this year, then for the following 10 years. Any questions or concerns about what we're doing?
I like the variety of jobs that is coming our way as a result of your opening those companies.
I think that's a, yeah. I think it's got a good variety.
Go ahead.
I was just asking, so when you're asking for the tax abatement for 10 years, that is asking for, like, I know we already have the taxes built into our budget.
Correct.
You know, that we have now on there. But how are y'all asking us to give up the taxable part of it now, or just on the incremental part?
Well, asking for the whole pie to begin with, And, you know, for the whole tax abatement, and I think I put in here, what it is, it's really, I think it's $30-some thousand. Now, that's a lot of money. But in the realm of the whole budget for the county, it's relatively small. And I think that it's a small thing to give up for a really big return. I know was discussion at the city about keeping the present taxes and just abating the increase on the assessed value increase, but instead they did give us the full tax abatement. They discussed this as well.
The estimated inventory taxes, is that
Yes.
over the 10-year period, or is that annually?
That's the first year annually.
Okay, $1 million.
Right,
It's
the first year annually.
Okay, and I get each one of these annually. And you're asking for the abatement on not just the Miss Kelly's piece, but the.
Would be the whole
base
property tax.
and-
It'll all be taxed as one big piece, and then they'll prorate it between the renters. But Miss Kelly, of course, they've got the giant space, they'll pay the brunt of it.
So for 10 years we did. I'm just asking.
What's that?
So for 10 years, you're asking for
Full abatement.
Tax.
full abatement on there.
Right.
And did the city do that for 10 years?
They did it for 5 years with renewal for another 5 years. And we'd have to go back in 4 years and ask for them to renew it for an additional 5 years.
Attorney Robinson, we always excited about new industry locating here. But I've got one question. Ace Hardware, you know, we've got B.O.S Hardware, we've got East Mississippi Hardware, and I guess they're eligible to come to us and ask for, since they're established companies, would they be eligible for a tax abatement?
Usually the abatement's gonna be attached to a remodel, which is kind of what this is, or it's gonna be attached to something that they're doing to increase. To your point, I think to boil this out, you're asking, are they getting the same consideration? The answer is no, but they could come back and ask for that same consideration at some point if they had a redevelopment or something to that regard. I'm not suggesting to you that one's better than the other, or anything like that, but to your point, they're not getting the same, but they could ask.
Is that something that, and I'm just asking this because I don't know, and I'm wondering, but do we have any kind of ordinance or anywhere that shows, in the county that sets a precedent? I guess, is this gonna be the first to set this type of precedent? Because we do have 2 or 3 other furniture stores in town that could come and ask for the same thing. Do we need to look at, like how much of an investment they would, other ones would need to do if they invested,
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Well, the city what happened is there is a state statute that allows for it, but you have to redevelop. It has to be a complete redevelopment of a property and provide jobs, etc. Now, the city recently passed a new ordinance that specifically is for this, but you have to put in more. You have to look at the assessed value, and the developer has to put in more than half the assessed value into the improvements, and 15% of that has to be toward the facade and the parking and sidewalks, that sort of thing. And also there's a whole criteria, and I can provide that to you, but they actually have a specific thing. But it cannot be where Bell's wants to come in and have you abate the taxes.
Right.
They have to buy a distressed property. Now, that previously here in Starkville, or actually Tibahaw County, you all had been, let me get that, there was a separate one that you all were eligible for. It was called the GAP project, but apparently Tibahaw County's gone in and out and in and out. You have to have more than 30% poverty level, and thankfully Tibahaw County, with programs like this, I would say, has come back out of that. So you're not in the poverty level, so we were not eligible for this GAP thing. And the GAP program for abatement was more for manufacturing and industrial jobs. For the retail thing, that's more up to the county, and Joe Max Higgins, he mainly does industrial and things like that. But no, just a normal store here because they fixed the facade outside the building, could not come in and they're not eligible for anything like this. Has to be a
Supervisor
old
Little,
property.
what this is, we've given this before. This is just another tool that we have to try and help attract, industry, into our county. We can't forgive the taxes that's gonna go to the school system. That they'll automatically get it. But this is just another way of helping attract, and we sort of judge it on the jobs that it'll bring, the revenue that it'll create. And I guess existing companies, even with inventory, if they bring, machinery, if they bring in a certain amount of machinery, they can come and ask for a tax abatement on certain machinery. So, yeah, this is something that we've done before.
And I think too, if they come in and they do remodeling, add more structure, and bring about more jobs, I think they could ask for a tax abatement, I believe.
They go into it, and, well, it'd have to be a remodel or something like that, a major remodel and create new jobs and that kind of thing.
Create new jobs.
Anybody can ask for this. Now, I mean, it's up to this board and boards around the state. Y'all are, it's not really fair to y'all in one sense, because you do have other places come and ask you, well, why are we not getting, we've been here forever. But you can only do what state law allows you to do, and that's kind of the boundary lines that you're kind of working within. I don't really like that, the way we're doing it, because I do think there are businesses out there that exist, but that's not on y'all. That's not your, you know, y'all are merely doing what you can do to make economic development projects work in your community. I think the state may need to look at that and try to help these other existing things, but that's really not y'all can't do anything about that.
Right, we don't want to miss opportunities. I was just thinking in terms of, you know, that ACE is locating here, and it might get a little bit of cool sales from some of our existing hardware companies. But, you know, it is, you know, that's the tool that we got.
Well, and an Ace Hardware is a little bit different. If you look, actually, if you look at Sullivan's Furniture, they're not making their money on the paper and the pens and pencils and whiteout that they've got in the front. It's all that stuff in the back. It's that furniture and all that they're doing for all these businesses that are coming in town. They outfit complete buildings and businesses, so that's kind of a storefront, but that's not where their business is. Same thing with Bell's and Southeast Lumber. That there is construction. It's not the little fountains and plants they're selling out front. That's not is what float in those buildings. If anything, Ace would probably compete mostly against Lowe's. A little bit, but Ace has got more of a personal thing, like Bell's does, where I could walk in and say, my husband wants to do this, what kind of screw do I need for it? And that's one nice thing about Bell's and that type of business. But this, and also the Ace Hardware, I don't know if it makes a difference, but the franchise is owned by one of the tailors out of Louisville, so it's again a kind of a local thing. Now Dollar Tree isn't. But it might cannibalize a little bit from other businesses, but not to the extent that you think. And Dollar Tree already has another Dollar Tree, and they decided our community's large enough to put in another smaller one. So,
and I have one other thing that I've been thinking,
Sure.
you know, because I think about a lot of things. But since there's 3 businesses going in there,
right.
and the biggest one being Miss Kelly, you know, supposedly Miss Kelly's going in, and we're asking for a tax abatement for 10 years. What if Miss Kelly's doesn't come? What if Ace decides they want to pull out? What if Dollar Tree, and so there's vacancy?
That's a terrific question.
That's in there.
And I can get a copy. I haven't received it yet, but I'm glad you said that, because the city is putting in a little hook in their resolution, and I can provide that to you, that says that if it's vacant for more than a year, then the abatement may cease. They've got a clause in there to encourage the developer, or whoever the owner is of the property, to keep that rented. So there was something, and I could provide you with that language in the resolution, that should it sit empty for more than 12 months, and you know, that big space, that then the abatement would have to cease. And I don't know what would happen there if you go back in and reapply for it once you get somebody in there, but that's a good suggestion. And I could provide that language to y'all if you want.
So we're looking at doing mirror imaging what the city has done.
5 and 5.
Okay.
5 and 5.
Or 10 in the 10 in the clawback. Just saying.
It's up to the
I'm here as a
board.
gladiator.
What's the motion?
Well, I guess
Five.
my suggestion would be to allow our attorney to gather the language from the city, maybe develop something that mirror images with what they have, and then bring it back to us for us to consider, take action either way.
When do you need this?
As soon as and if you need help with that, I'll be happy to get that. I believe Sandra Sistrunk drew that up.
Do we have an estimate of the amount of taxes that we are paying?
Well, right now the taxes are 30. Let me see.
31,000.
31,000. But I don't know when the new assessed value.
Right.
That's with it being assessed at like $380,000, and he's put. I mean, 3 million, and he's put in when we're finished about 4 million. That's on top of what he purchased it for. So he's put in more than he purchased it for. Back
So we're because this is going to be a question asked, I'm certain. That we would be abating about $30,000 a year.
right now. But once they assess a higher value, which I'm sure they would.
Well, I'm with you, but that wouldn't exist without his.
Oh, that's true. Otherwise, it'd just sit there and everything go down.
Right.
It would go down because I'm sure it's deteriorating greatly, the roof especially.
We've got a motion by Supervisor Trainer to allow our attorney to reach out to the city and come back to us. Second by Supervisor Little. All in favor? Supervisor Carver?
Yay.
Motion passes unanimously.
Should I perhaps come back on the next meeting date, or would that be
We'll
appropriate?
have it together by then, I'm sure.
Okay. Thank you. And if you have any other questions, whether, please reach out. I'd be happy to help with that. All right. Thank you very much for your time. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Are we not getting any taxes on that operation anymore?
About 30,000, yeah. It's not chicken feed, but I mean, I think in the future, the whole argument is in 10 years that it will pay for itself 1,000-fold as we roll with something. But that is the argument.
I've been informed that one of our election commissioners are here and they wasn't placed on the agenda, so if it pleases the board, can we allow them to come up and speak? Mr. Holly?
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
We're here as a body asking for additional people for the presidential election coming up in November 2024. 4 years ago, we had roughly a little over 70% turnout for voting, and we're probably expecting that or bigger. So we need additional additional poll workers for 3 of our larger precincts: South Starkville, West Starkville, and Hickory Grove. And we have to get your approval in order to do that.
Okay.
Motion for approval.
Motion by Supervisor Williams, second by Supervisor Little. All in favor? Motion passes unanimously.
Thank y'all.
Thanks, sir. Appreciate you.
Okay, we've got, next on the agenda, Mr. Kenneth Slauson.
Yes, sir.
South Ridge Road concern.
Yes, sir.
Good morning.
Good morning. Thank you for your time. I appreciate y'all hearing me. I didn't prepare anything ahead of time, but I've got some 5 handouts here that I can pass around. I live on South Ridge Road, which is down South Montgomery, almost at the end of South Montgomery. And on the 19th, a car crashed into my front yard, and no one was hurt, thankfully. And I was out there picking up the debris from the crash with my wife, and a neighbor walked by, and we were talking, and I realized that if my neighbor had been standing there 2 hours earlier, he had probably been killed. And there's a lot of cut-through traffic on South Ridge Road. It serves 50 residences that have to commute it every day, houses on South Ridge and on some of the side streets. But a lot of traffic, over 100 residences, are able to cut through from Williams Road through Eccles Road and drive through our neighborhood. So South Ridge has kind of become a main artery for people going from Williams Road over to South Montgomery and then on to Octok or east side of the county. There are no stop signs on South Ridge Road. There are some on the side streets, Bent Tree and Cross Creek. And so, like a good neighbor, I put together a petition and I went around meeting my neighbors and talking and asking for their opinions. And no one wants to drive over a speed bump. No one wants to interfere with their daily commute. I did a little research on speed bumps and speed humps and speed cushions and all those things. And it seems like the general consensus is on the next to last page, which is installing some stop signs. If we could turn a two-way intersection into a four-way stop and a single stop sign into a three-way stop, we would at least make all of the traffic stop 3 times on that 1 mile road. And it would likely slow traffic down. Our second option there, based on talking with the residents, is a speed cushion, which in theory you can drive over at 25 miles an hour, but probably more like 20. People were very concerned with massive speed bumps or the rumple strips like they've seen out on Williams Road being inconvenient or not having any effect at all. And it just seems like that if we could do some stop signs, it might slow some traffic down. There's a lot of high-speed traffic in front of my house. I see it on a daily basis. I cycle in my neighborhood. I've heard stories of moms snatching strollers out of the road as cars were flying toward them. It's a narrow road, and it really can't handle 40, 45 mile an hour traffic. The posted speed limit is 25. It's tree lined, it has no stripes. If elderly people walk all day long on South Ridge Road, and you can't hardly see them when the sun's out on some sections. So we're just kind of here asking for some help from you guys to see if y'all could come up with a plan or do something to help us slow traffic down a little bit on South Ridge Road.
I do know that speeding is a big concern down South Montgomery and all through both of those neighborhoods.
You're right. It has turned into a commute. It's like Octot, but it's supposed to be a neighborhood. It's not supposed to be a commute. You could go down to Reeves Road and cut over to Bethel, or you could go up to Poorhouse. But South Ridge is the most convenient, and it's just not designed for the speeds and the traffic that it's seeing.
Did most of that start though when they opened up that other end of that subdivision?
From what I understand, Eccles connects Bent Tree to Williams, and Eccles used to be gravel. And they said when Eccles got paved, it really freed people up to want to use it more. And several people said they remembered back in the day, 20 years ago, when there was a gate there on Bent Tree and you couldn't cut through. And I think when the county took the South Ridge Road over and paved it, they said, we've got to open this up, you can't have a gate there. Several people said, as much as I use Eccles Road, you could put a gate there tomorrow and I wouldn't mind it at all because it would cut out all the cut-through traffic. I don't know what rules and regulations you guys abide by, but those are 2 of our suggestions there on the packet.
Supervisor Williams, you might be able to add some light on this. I think it was one reason it was opened up to allow fire coverage. Supervisor, do you?
Well, it's a county road. And as a result of being a county road, it could not be a gate there.
Okay.
The gate had to be taken down.
So you couldn't put a gate at an intersection of 2 county roads?
No, not if it's a county road, it couldn't be a gate where you stop traffic. That's my understanding. But I do think
You're correct.
Yeah. I think you have 2 good recommendations, and I believe that you're more interested in recommendation number 1. First choice.
Well, like I said, I walked around and got some signatures and talked to about 20 some odd residents, and the general consensus was we wouldn't mind stop signs as much as we might mind a speed cushion or something of that nature. Stop signs seem to be the least intrusive in their opinion.
And have to stop.
Mm-hmm.
And have to stop on regular emphasis there too. So it's gonna be my motion. I saw the accident too. It was a real bad accident. I saw it.
It was. There's a photo of the accident and some signatures from my neighbors.
It's amazing we didn't have someone that get hurt real bad in that particular accident. Gonna be my motion that we approve choice number 1 because that's the one you seem to be more interested in. We approve that one, and 2, that we have communication with our road manager so he can work out the plans for getting that accomplished.
Let me make sure I understand what we're doing. Motion to approve stop signs in said area with the road manager to
As long as
actually
it's a
work out what the details are, correct?
And on this, it would be.
As long as we can
first
legally do all that.
to equal stop
That's
sign.
all road we do if we want to do that.
I think that would work real good for that particular area. You have to stop at regular time.
Thank you. Thanks for coming by and looking at the crash site.
Okay, thank you.
We've got a motion by Supervisor Williams to install stop signs on South Ridge Road, second by Supervisor Little. All in favor? Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Next on our agenda, we've got, Ms. Hopkins. Update on our VA. Good morning.
Yes, good morning. How is everyone?
Great, about yourself.
Okay. I didn't get my presentation ready for Dolores, so here it, I'm gonna give y'all some of those and pass it around. Can you take that, Rob? There should be some left over for Dolores. I don't know if I left one with you the other day. Mine's gonna be short and sweet. Let's see, I'm just gonna give you a little bit about what's been going on from January, February, and March. As you can see, our activities about office interviews and phone calls and claims that I make, appeals, things I have to send in. And then some of the outreach activities that I've been doing for the last 3 months. I did do a certification. I had to take training in October of last year to get certified, so I passed that and I am certified. And another training, mandatory training, as you'll see on the second page, is going to be coming up in April, I think next week, in Mississippi, and we're going to do that in Biloxi, and that'll be another training class I have to take that's mandatory for Mississippi. But CDSOs, they'll all be there. And then let's see, February I went through a job fair that had a lot of veterans, some jobs for veterans, because I do get veterans coming into my office occasionally wanting to know if there are any jobs, and so I do want to keep up with that and have little brochures to hand out. And then I did a virtual training on this new database that the regional office is wants to put into place, which is VetPro. And I did an update because our VetRespect, which is what I'm using now, is not up until June. Our yearly cost for that software. And then I did, I was virtual. I watched a national on the Women's Veterans Outreach seminar. I did a little bit on that. And upcoming events, which we're going to start planning for the Memorial Day activities. So we had our first meeting with Jeff Donald, and the next meeting is going to be May 1st. We're going to plan what's going to go on for Memorial. And as the sheriff is going to have his second senior picnic, and that's going to be April 5th. I'm going to have a booth there, along with the BSO at Mississippi State. And the next phase is just what's coming up, some of the big events that are coming up for me that I know about now, which are the training that I just mentioned and the national training in Denver. So that's about it for the first quarter. Y'all have any questions?
Well, thank you so much for everything that you do in your office.
Thank you, Mr. Allen.
I've got a question.
Yes, sir.
We sort of discussed just a little bit about if there might be a need for a full-time veterans officer in your office. What do you think? Do you think the load is large enough to handle it?
Well, right now, I am putting in more hours. I see that once the PACT Act was passed, which was in August of 2023, and signed into effect, I have to do the regional office and the federal are asking for some different procedures. I have to upload every document, which takes a while, and explain every visit on a database. It's VetRespect. That's why they're moving to VetPro, that will handle more. The Veterans Regional Office in Jackson. So I would like to have more hours, and I stay there more. I'm staying there now sometimes 6, 6 hours a day, and I'd like to do that one. I wasn't before, I was keeping it like 20 and something like that. But full-time, I'm not sure, can we talk over that?
Yeah. If you sort of look over your workload and you know, wondering if your office stayed open more, would more people visit and?
Well, I think also I'm having a lot of people coming in that are just asking questions. Cause you know, I'm right there on Main Street and I can get interrupted, 2 to 3 times. I think veterans have seen that have appointments that I'm talking to, and that does take up some time to answer questions just because they've been to the tax office and they happen to walk down the street. And so that has been taking up a little more time than when I was in the courthouse, and more people getting out and they're seeing that where I'm at and things like that. So yes, I am and would like to continue to do more hours because I need it of uploading and Zoom meetings and quiet time that I can get away from there to upload, because I do have my computer at home that I can upload with. Let me think on that full time, and I'm staying more in the afternoon now, and because I do have some veterans can't come in the morning, and I am staying there in the afternoon at times to see those veterans. So is that answering?
Yeah, we'll think on it and report back to us and let us know what full time would look like.
Okay. Okay, I will do that, sir. Yes,
Supervisor Lee.
Yeah, sometimes it's difficult for me to keep up with opportunities for myself as a veteran. And I know they're difficult for other individuals to keep up with opportunities also.
right.
As a veteran. Can you let us know whether or not there's something new that you need to call our attention to, that veterans need to be aware of, opportunities that are available for them that's just coming up that we might not know about?
Yes, Mr. Williams. As I said, the PACT Act went in place, and there's a lot of opportunities with that. When I'll have the picnic, I will hand out benefits for all veterans. I'm going to do that as having a table set up. And the PACT Act brought in Gulf War veterans. It did a lot for the Gulf War veterans as far as toxins. It has to do with a lot of the toxins. And getting the word out with that, and I do get a lot of phone calls about what benefits are there for each veteran, because they're not aware of them. And I do send out packages to those veterans that call me. That's why I have such a lot of phone calls with that. So we're trying to plan now more like workshops where we can set up booths to let everyone know, like we used to do in the past before COVID. You know, COVID kind of died things down, and we're just starting back, setting that up. And when I say, I'll work with the Veteran Service Officer who is at Mississippi State, and we're planning to have more booths set up to let veterans become aware of what there is out there. But a lot of things changed with the PACT Act to open up more benefits. And I think we've sent out, we've had town hall meetings on it, and we've advertised on in the paper and on TV. So I'll just try to think of other things we can get the word out. And if anyone knows of anything that we aren't doing to get the word out, just please let me know. But yeah, we plan on doing more this year to get since that's been in place. Yeah.
What are your office hours right now?
They're now 8:30 to 12:30.
Monday through Friday?
Yes, yes, they are. And as I told you, I need a little more time than that with the upload and the new policies they have in place of seeing uploads, because it takes time to put a communication in to a database when I talk to someone. So the VA will know, the federal VA will know what's going on with that person too, and can look into our regional office database. If that all makes sense, but I will come back with that. Thank you so
Okay,
much.
thank you.
Anything else?
Thank you.
Need a motion to acknowledge.
So moved.
Been motion by Supervisor Trainer, second by Supervisor Williams, all in favor? Motion passes unanimously. Next on the agenda, we've got, Mr. Willingham, Slaughter and Associates. Good morning.
Hope I don't disappoint you. I'm Mike Slaughter with Slaughter and Associates. But Mr. Willingham's coming in right there. How y'all doing today? Nice to see some familiar faces around here, and maybe one or two new faces too. Welcome to the board. Again, I'm Mike Slaughter with Slaughter and Associates, and this is Nathan Willingham, a planner with my office as well. I think Mrs. Farmer, there you are, had contacted our office about maybe the board was considering updating your current comprehensive plan. Is that correct? Well, good, and that's where we appreciate the opportunity to be here before the board. It's been a while for me, Nathan's first time, but I do know that the last time we prepared your comprehensive plan was that about 2014, so it's been about 10 years ago, something like that. Nathan just put up a couple of maps. This is a base map of the county and some of the existing land use we did for the county back then, and a future land use map, which sort of helps guide growth and development, because I knew some of you haven't seen these. And certainly it's definitely time to update that plan, and probably a little bit past time. Typically we like to see those, especially in progressive communities like Oktibbeha County and Starkville and the Golden Triangle area, at least every 5 years. But it's good that you, number one, have a comprehensive plan, and number two, looking into updating that comprehensive plan, because I assure you need it with, and I don't have to tell you about the growth and development that's occurring around here for sure. I want to hand out just a couple of documents, because there's some people here that see me and Mr. Willingham for the first time. That's our company packet that I sort of refer to. I'll leave one there, you pass those down. That sort of just highlights what our company does, and the services we provide and all, and so you can take this with you. In the back we have an additional flyer that gives you more information about comprehensive planning. And then also I have here a little PowerPoint presentation. I've got a hard copy of that. You want to just pass those around as well, and let's see, we'll leave one right there. And Mr. President, if you would like for me to, I can just briefly go through this PowerPoint presentation. What it does is tells you a little bit about me and my firm, and then I'll go over briefly about the comprehensive plan, what it is, what's in it, and all of that, because I do know, number one, it's been a while since we've done it, and number two, we have some new faces around the table as well. Would that please the board?
I think that'll be very
okay. All right, and it won't take me long to do this. On page 2, you can see it outlines, it gives you a little information about Slaughter and Associates. Of course, I have an undergraduate degree in civil engineering, a master's degree in city and regional planning. I'm a registered professional engineer as well as a certified planner. Mr. Willingham is soon to have his doctorate degree. He's wrapping that up in public administration, a master's degree from Troy University, Bachelor of Science in Political Science, and he's also a certified planner as well. And we have additional personnel, GIS operators, office managers, and so forth in our office. On page 3, it's just sort of a summary of the professional services that we offer throughout the state. We work, most of our clients, and I'll get to that on the very next page. I was about to get ahead of myself on page 4. I was born and raised in Mississippi. Base was my hometown, and I've been living in Oxford since about 1990. But we do work all over the state of Mississippi, and have been doing it for over 3 decades now. And that's where most of our clients are, cities, counties, school districts, public entities. We do a little bit of work in Alabama as well, and mainly only because they reach out to us to do it. I don't really market over there like I do in Mississippi. On page 5, you can see our current comprehensive planning client list, where we're doing preparing comprehensive plans throughout the state, and then next I'm switching gears on page 6, going on to page 7 about what a comprehensive plan is. But really, and there's state planning legislation about what a comprehensive plan, but it's really a document, a statement of public policy for the growth, development, and hopefully positive change for the entire community, because with my prior work with this board, as well as my prior work with the city of Starkville, not all change is positive. And you want to make sure, and that change may be needed, but we got to make sure it's done in a positive way, the right location, the right infrastructure, and all of that. If not, it can be a negative impact, not only on that community, but even further. But it indicates in a general way how the leaders of the government, such as yourself, and you all know, at least the ones that were here, you were very involved in that comprehensive planning process, and how the leaders of the government and the citizens want the community to grow and improve over the next 20 to 25 years. And we'll go over some of the topics we're looking at there. On page 8, a comprehensive plan is a technical term that Mr. Willingham and I have both been educated in and have experience in. If your board of supervisors, it's a long-range fiscal health plan. If we can keep our economy moving forward, far as development, keep assessed values up, property values up, that way we can keep our millage rate down or overall taxes down. We can keep our sheriff department operating like it should, our road department and all departments operating like they should, with the minimum level of taxes, as long as we protect our assessed values and overall keep our property taxes down. So it's really a long-range fiscal health plan. It's really what the comprehensive plan is about if you're a member of the Board of Supervisors. If you're a citizen of the county and its various communities, it's really a long-range quality of life plan, because what people want, they want to have a good, safe place to live in, good school systems, good housing, and have access to good jobs, as well as things to do, parks and recreation, all that's very important as well. Even though it doesn't pay the bills, it's not a job, it's definitely an important part of the overall quality of life. And that a comprehensive plan addresses all those in the plan. On page 9, you can see the minimum elements of a comprehensive plan, and that's not according to me or Mr. Willingham, this is according to the state planning legislation. Goals and objectives, land use plan, transportation plan, and community facilities plans. On page 10, goals and objectives, you see there are several bullets of what's important from goals and objectives. And that's really where we get the input. And we will probably do this the same way we did it last time, if you all authorize us to, is we start from the Board of Supervisors, the department heads, community leaders, and go on down to the citizens. We don't care if you make $10,000 a year, $10 million a year, or what the color of your skin is, or what your education level is. What's important to you is important to us, and that's what we did last time. I remember when we were doing the goals and objectives, where we get these citizens' input, we had a meeting in a courtroom. Was it on this floor? Here in the courtroom, and we hardly ever see this. We really do. Where it was, I'm not going to say it was packed out. There were a lot of people there. Where we got a lot of great input. We were there for about 3 hours one night, having public input, and it was a great meeting. And that's what makes this comprehensive plan, the goals and objectives, where we get it from the top all the way down. It makes it this community's plan. You don't need Mr. Willingham and me telling where you all need to be in 5, 10, or 20 years from now. It's this community that gives that direction, starting from the community leaders on down to the everyday citizens. And you can see on there goals and objectives: residential, commercial, industrial, open space, and recreation. And again, these come from the state planning legislation. street and road improvements, and community facilities such as libraries, police, fire stations, recreational buildings, and so forth. Page 11, the land use plan. That's our future land use plan, which helps guide and direct growth. But this right here, a future land use plan and a comprehensive plan, really has no teeth such as a subdivision regulations or a zoning ordinance or something like that that's really legally bound to do. This is an overall plan. Now you got to have an overall comprehensive plan if you do want to have land use controls such as a zoning ordinance. That's based on the state planning legislation. But this gives us a guide, and we, excuse me, Supervisor Stringer, future land use categories, whether it was agricultural, medium density, residential, high density, and so forth. And you can see that the intensity would get higher around the city of Starkville, which makes sense. And then you have a lot of more rural land around, the majority of the county, which you want to protect that and allow them to continue to operate as they do. But typically the land use plan covers in general residential, commercial, industrial, recreation, open space, and public and semi-public lands. And then the last thing is a transportation plan. And growing up in Mississippi and living in Mississippi and as many miles I put on my vehicle every year, it's real easy to think about transportation plans about automobiles and truck traffic. But there's more to it than that, especially when it comes to a county government. Airport's important, rail, and as a citizen, sidewalks, bike paths, walking trails, interconnectivity between schools and downtown areas and parks and recreation. All of that's important. So when we look at transportation plan, we don't look at it just as automobiles, but automobile, truck traffic, all that's certainly, especially from trucks, important from industrial development standpoint. And also, all of those areas are important just to different areas of the community. And of course, transportation, depending on what it is, can certainly impact how those land uses should be developed. And what we want to do in transportation, where you have utilities and all, you want to identify those lands that are and hope they develop and guide and direct them to develop to their highest and best use. There's certain areas that are best suited for industrial development. They're prime because they have access to 4-lane highways, they have electrical, they have water and sewer, and these make great places for industrial type development. There's some other areas that should be floodplain and floodway from now on and never be disturbed, and just be some and maybe good places for parks and recreation. So you have places for all sorts of land uses, but you got to make sure that and help ensure that how you develop is you want that to develop to its highest and best use. That doesn't mean how a developer from Texas or Florida or Mississippi can make the most money, and we're not against, at least I'm not against development. I'm sort of like pro-development, but it's got to be controlled. It's got to be the right thing for the community. But you can't take advantage of the community and then leave problems with the community. And y'all probably seen that happen, not only in Oklahoma County, but around the state. And in wrapping this up, on the next couple of pages, I have some text that I put together on my own. But the bottom bullet on page 14, in essence, the purpose of the comprehensive plan is to provide guidance and direction for the future of the community and its citizens and their overall quality of life. And I guarantee you, you go out and interview a majority of the people that live here in Oklahoma County, and they're going to give you a lot of good reasons that's going to boil down the quality of life of why they're here. And you want to protect that. And we can ride around this state, especially in the Delta, and I love Mississippi. I've been living here all my life. But you can ride through the Delta and some others, and it can be depressing from what they used to be. And that quality of life is gone and hard to get back, I can tell you that. And then lastly, on page 16, some implementation tools of the comprehensive plan. You can see a list of those there as well. And then just to close out with a quote from Mr. Richard Moe with the National Trust for Historic Preservation. Communities can be shaped by chance, or they can be shaped by choice. We can keep on accepting the kind of communities we get, or we can start creating the kind of communities we want. And that certainly applies to the comprehensive planning process. And in Octavia Hall County, the way I see that is Octavia Hall County made a decision at least 10 years ago from my standpoint that they want to help guide and direct what kind of community you have. And it appears y'all are entertaining updating that comprehensive plan to continue that same type of thinking. So with that, Mr. President, I'll turn the meeting back over to you and be glad to entertain any questions you all may have at this time.
Any questions for Mr. Slaughter?
I noticed in here where it said on page 16, at the bottom of it, it said, and the most important, the proper enforcement of the codes and ordinances. And if we have not, we don't have those yet, do we?
What was it,
Now, let me tell you.
enforcement of codes and ordinances?
Well, let me tell you, that was a general statement, if I may jump in, Mr. President. In generally, some of these implementation tools, such as land use regulation and zoning ordinance, subdivision regulation, building and housing codes, and you may not have those adopted, but if for public entities that do, and I would encourage Octavia Hall County, there's a lot of these in here that I would encourage Octavia, and have encouraged Octavia Hall County to do. If you do a comprehensive plan, a lot of these are implementation tools. If you do at some point, the county does at some point decide to have land use regulations that have teeth, that control what goes there and what doesn't. Have subdivision regulations, which y'all may have some form of subdivision regulations now. Building codes, do y'all have any, y'all don't have that? Building codes, enforcement of those. So if you do adopt codes to help implement that comprehensive plan, have proper enforcement of those codes, uniform enforcement of those codes is what that is saying, because if you adopt them but don't enforce them properly, then why have them, really, is what that statement is making.
Well, I certainly appreciate Mr. Slaughter. I think it's something that we need to move forward with. I get a lot of calls from people in my district, I guess, about different things that I think would be better addressed if we had some type of updated comprehensive plan, and also one that we can implement. And then I also got a call from a concerned individual about should we go forward with it, the type of persons that we would put in those positions that would be responsible for making these determinations. And I know that's critical too. But at the same time, right now, I'm dealing with several issues out in my district that need some guidance on as far as how to handle those things. And I think having something like this in place would be a good first step. And then, of course, the public input. You definitely don't want to do anything without public input. So I think this is something we need to consider.
And that public input is definitely, that's ingrained, not with just me or Mr. Williams. That was taught to us in planning school. If you're gonna have a comprehensive plan, using the word comprehensive, it better be comprehensive, and you've included everyone. The term comprehensive means we're gonna look at all sorts of things, land use, transportation, community facilities, and all that. But without that public input, I would probably advise not doing a comprehensive plan, because you're not gonna have the real plan for this county. So I firmly, it's ingrained, you gotta have that public input to make it worth what you're doing. Very good.
The good thing about this comprehensive plan also is we can choose the areas that we feel the most important that we address right now, and we can work it from that standpoint.
Absolutely. What's important now, what have we accomplished in the past 10 years? And I will tell you this goes with any comprehensive planning meeting where we're getting public input. Like in our 3-hour meeting we had here, we did one for Lafayette County probably about 8 years ago or something. They ultimately adopted a zoning ordinance as well that we worked hard on there as well. But in Lafayette County, they wanted us to go to like all corners of the county and hold public meetings. So we can do that. We can do that in Octavia Hall County. We went to whatever length that Board of Supervisors wanted us to do. But even the point I was gonna make, even in this meeting where we had almost 3-hour meeting, it's 2 hours of sort of the max, but it was going well. Everything that's said in that meeting doesn't always make it into the comprehensive plan, just to be honest. Just like you said, what's important is what we're gonna put in there, and all the ideas are great to hear, but some of them really just don't apply or don't apply to a large enough geography or cross-section of people and so forth. But we wanna hear everything and get in here what's most important for this community as a whole, is what we wanna do, and make this plan this community's plan.
Supervisor Carver?
Yeah, I was gonna say, I just, was an alderman. I think we worked in 2014 together. I'm sorry, I've been under the weather a little bit today. But one thing I've noticed, kind of transitioning from an alderman to a supervisor, is the word quality of life. Quality of life for someone that chooses to live in town and proximity to grocery stores, walking sidewalks, things like that in a residential setting. The quality of life for somebody in the county is completely different. Maybe a farm or, a view of the lake or things like that. So, what you're having, I know you live up north, but what you're having here with exponential growth, even over in Lowndes County, is you're having a lot of people move out from the city to the county, or maybe moving in here from other counties, and they choose to live in the county for a reason. But maybe people that come from a residential setting. So we're all, I think all supervisors here, from talking to people that want to talk, maybe from a commercial construction standpoint on things such as code, what that looks like, what kind of person you hire, what their real job, responsibilities and capabilities are. But Oklahoma County in the next 10 to 15 years is poised, I think, next 10 to 15 years is poised for some pretty great growth. And I think what this discussion kind of started off with is because of that, we see that coming in the horizon, and it may be time to revisit the comprehensive plan sooner rather than later, just because we do need to get ahead of what's fixing to happen here in the next 10 to 15 years. So I'm just excited to see where this goes, and just to understand that I have a quote too. I heard this quote. I've got a quote from a baseball coach in junior college, but Deb Bonner down at East Mississippi. He said, "A bad plan is better than no plan at all." And I used to really get bothered by that quote, but when it starts making sense later in life, the plan is a good thing, even if it's not the full plan at the onset. But what you got to do is put something in writing. So I've actually spent the weekend reading through this comprehensive plan and revisiting it. But I was just going to say, I look forward to it. I'll reach out to you, and I know everybody looks forward with. Thank you for coming today.
I'm certainly glad to be here. I appreciate that opportunity. Thank you very much.
I think go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Supervisor.
I see probably a need in my area where we see small industry or small development that is taking place in areas that truly should be residential. Now, I would think that a comprehensive plan would address those type of issues.
We're going to, that comprehensive plan, I want to be direct on this, that comprehensive plan will update this future land use map, which will identify where's the best for residential, where's the best for commercial. The only real way you can legally enforce that is to have land use regulations such as a zoning ordinance. Just to be upfront and honest with you on that, in order to tell somebody this is what you can and can't do. You can direct them with this comprehensive plan. This comprehensive plan is required to have in order to have that zoning ordinance. But in order to absolutely control that, you have to have one of those implementation tools that you were asking about in the back.
Are you finding that you need one person to control the plan itself and actually control how individuals are using it? Plan, is there a team of individuals that need to be employed?
Well, typically, depending on what all you're enforcing, it would be best if you had a planning director at some point here, if you did get into well, obviously implementing your comprehensive plan is sort of more of a board decision-making thing. But if you adopt some of those implementation tools, such as a zoning ordinance or building codes and such, things like that eventually, then it would be good at some point to have that planning director that can interpret the comprehensive plan, interpret land use controls, answer questions. And then there's a process where if somebody's coming in development, it still comes to the board of supervisors for approval. He doesn't have that authority. He doesn't take your voice, but he does implement the comprehensive plan and zoning ordinance and interpret that. And then ultimately, decision is made at this same table.
I think as we work through this, we should consider y'all moving to different locations in the county and educating people. You know, we've got the town of Maven, we've got the town of Sturgis. I think it would be good.
I think so.
If we move around and educate people and allow them to ask questions, because, you know, there are people that you mentioned the word code, and it's, you know,
right.
So I think if we can move around and allow people to ask questions and educate them on exactly what it is we're trying to do here, I think that'll.
Absolutely. When you look at this map where you see Starkville is almost centered in Hall County, but you actually do have Maven right on the corner. In order to really get their input, we need to go out there to them. Sturgis, almost the same thing. We need to go out there. If they've got a community center or a fire station, something in that area, set up, have our PowerPoint presentation, we have a projector screen, get their input and let them know we value their input. You're exactly right. And then even other communities that may not even be legally named or officially named, go out to those. So all four corners of the county, I think, would be important as well. And I also handed out to you all a letter of agreement that's very similar to what we did about 10 years ago. And as a matter of fact, the cost is probably about the same from 10 years ago, because back then we started totally from scratch on a comprehensive plan. I really knew not much about Hall County and all, and we prepared that. We have a good plan in place, even though it's dated. We would need to update that comprehensive plan, especially with the new 2020 decennial census data that we've had that's come out since then. So there's a lot of new information, new data that's come out since then. We would take and update our goals and objectives and all of those elements, but we don't necessarily have to just throw out that old plan, because it's still got some value, but it needs to be updated. And so I tried to put in here a cost that sort of reflects that. Obviously, we get in here, y'all guide and direct us to do something different from that line of thinking, but that was my line of thinking in coming up with these costs, because believe me, if you want to spend double this, we could do it, no doubt about it. But what this thinking was to take your current plan, update that, and then see what develops as we're going through that process.
Well, I'd like to make a motion that we employ the services of Slaughter and Associates to help us with updating our comprehensive plan.
It's been moved by Supervisor Trainer, second by Supervisor Little, that we employ Slaughter to help us update our comprehensive plan. All in favor? Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
I very much appreciate it, and I know Mr. Willingham does too. And I will say this: we do work for counties all around the state, but mostly our work is with cities, because they mostly have comprehensive plan zoning ordinance. But more and more counties are doing what you guys have been doing for a decade and more. So I commend you on, number one, doing what we did 10 years ago and recognize the importance of that, and setting aside money to ensure that you have a guide for the future growth of this county and its citizens, and come down to protecting that quality of life. And that's what it really comes down to as well. So again, I commend you on that, and we are certainly thankful to be a part and proud to be a part of that process.
Could you give us some information too about what is the best approach for how to implement it. But we can have a plan, but if we can't implement it, then we're not doing very much. So how counties implementing their comprehensive plan, and that you notice how they are implementing their plan.
What we would put in our comprehensive plan, we'll have at the end of it is sort of summary of an implementation plan in the comprehensive plan. We will also, in meeting with each and every department head, one way of protecting and enhancing quality of life is have a good sheriff's department that can provide a high level of public safety from the sheriff's standpoint. Meeting with the fire chief, I'm sure y'all have fire districts or volunteer fire departments throughout the county. Being able to provide that service at a high level. Any other, what has to do with garbage, trash, road department, and all that's important. We're going to meet with those and determine, looking 5 years, 10 years down the road, what is it your department would need in order to ensure a high level of services to protect that quality of life. We'll have that spelled out in the plan. Where as a board, you can look at each and every department and say, in 5 years from now, we're going to need a new fire truck at this station. In 10 years from now, we're going to need another one. You can start planning for that. With the sheriff's department, whatever it may be there, you can see where you can implement those and have time to implement those. Then you'll also see what's shaking out from these implementation tools, what it has to do with building codes, land use codes, and things like that. Are we to the point where we want to do that? So you're going to have departmental issues of protecting that quality of life. Then you're going to have land use and development issues to see how you want to address that. And that may require you implementing some other codes and ordinances that you haven't. So we'll definitely have all that spelled out in the plan and how you can implement that plan, because it's very important. You have a comprehensive plan and it sits on the desk, what's it worth? Nothing. You want to implement it. And that's, I know what you want to do is make sure we make this investment as a county, spending the citizens and the taxpayers' money. We want to get something of value out of it. How do you do it? Implement that plan. Because we're going to make sure it's this community's plan. This board has to make sure they implement it, and we'll help you with that process.
And then who's going to be driving around and watching and seeing whether or not someone is violating?
Okay, if you have a building, if you have a building inspector, if you adopt building codes, there's going to be a process in place, and they will be driving around, because there's going to be a transition. People are not going to know about it first. There'll be a transition, educational, and make sure they know, hey, if you're going to build that house, you got to come in and get a permit.
Someone has to do that.
If you, just like y'all probably have a floodplain ordinance right now, don't you, to ensure that they don't build in a floodplain? Well, it's just the same process. We'll have to implement it for other ordinances and regulations. And then if you get to a point where you have these land use controls ordinance and maybe have a planning director or something, they would have to ensure of that. So you've got to have the people in place, depending on what you have adopted, to make sure they can do that job.
Anything else from Mr. Slaughter? If not, thank you all
Thank
so
you very
much for
much.
coming.
Thank you very much.
I might leave these maps with you, unless they're just going to be cluttering.
Okay, that's fine. Are they individuals? Can each one of us get one?
We can get them.
There's one big map each. If there's any you all want, just tell us and we can send it to you.
Okay.
And
You can take the old ones and dispose of them.
we'll take the whole thing.
That's why I was asking about clutter. I didn't leave something on y'all you didn't want. We sure appreciate y'all.
Appreciate you guys.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it, everyone. Nice to see everyone again and meet some new faces, and we look forward to working with you all. Thank you again.
So much. Okay. If it pleases the board, we're gonna call Attorney Favor up and let her speak to us. Hello.
Good morning.
I'm so sorry, I know this is not on your agenda, I was gonna let Robin do it for us.
Now, this is basically the typical thing we do whenever they sell a piece of property that the OCH is connected to, we have to approve it, that's all this is. And if you wanna,
Yeah, so back in March of '22, the board approved OCH purchasing a corner lot on Lynn Lane, by Struffel Academy. So we did purchase it, there was some, I believe Mr. Jackson came and explained what the purpose was, some strategic planning changed, and so we did not go forward with the project, and we now have an offer to sell it at the same price. So I just need the board's approval to sell it, and that will put it back on your tax roll. From what I understand, it is the for-profit business that's purchasing it, and so it'll go back on your tax roll. So I just need board approval. It's for the exact same amount that we purchased it for, $350,000, cash offer, no contingencies, no appraisal, and we'll close ASAP.
What's the pleasure of the board? We got a motion by Supervisor Little, second by Supervisor Howard. All in favor? Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you. If I could just get a order from, just for our records, resolution or something, approving the sale.
what, is there an address or anything attached to that, or I can
I
get it to
can
you later?
give you the lot number.
We didn't have any use, we cannot foresee any use in the future for that particular property.
No, sir.
So we bought it and then turned around and then now sell it.
Yes, sir. That is correct.
Just out of curiosity, do you have the square footage of that property, how much it is?
It is about an acre, a little over an acre.
I think the strategic plan was to put an urgent care
That's,
over there, and that's changed.
that helps at all, yeah, to kind of give you an idea. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate
You're
you.
welcome.
Yes, ma'am.
Next on the agenda, we've got, Mr. Edward Kemp. Good morning.
Morning. How are y'all today?
Doing great.
I have a PowerPoint with a few slides and photographs and things of that nature, if that's okay. Bring it over there. This is Monday.
It's hard to come across property in the city limits.
It's expensive, amazes me how expensive it's got.
You try to buy it again, it's gonna double.
We got a deal on it. What was the lowest, what the deal out on it? That was a deal and a half this weekend.
What that, oh, the deal?
That was a good deal. Comparatively. Keep in mind that they spent $350,000 on a piece of, 1 acre piece of property, no improvements.
That's even in the county property. I should have brought up to you in the county, six lot projector.
Good morning again. Is that okay if I stand right here? Is that, I don't know what normal protocol here, but thank y'all for having us today. Last time I was here before the board, I promised you guys I would come back when the report got finished, and that's why I'm here today, and appreciate Ms. Delos for putting me on the agenda to present to the board. I promise I will keep this very brief, and if you guys have any questions, both now or afterwards, feel free to reach out to me. I'm available. You guys also have a copy of the full report, I believe in your inbox. It was emailed out late last week.
It's quite an extensive document, and so it has a lot of photographs and historical information. So basically, my goal today is to distill that down into a real easy, digestible format and give you guys an executive summary of it. And we had to make a little pivot. Like last night, I got a call from Wes Cardwell, who's the principal author and engineer from Garver. And he came down with COVID. His whole family has COVID. I said, well, you need to stay. And I'm going to do my best to muddle through this today. So you guys, if y'all ask any tough questions today, I have brought two of my wonderful co-workers, Miss Mary Williams, who's our capital projects manager. She's a licensed engineer.
I know that.
And then Mr. Thomas Ware, as many of y'all know him. He's our chief wastewater operator, wonderful operator for us. And he is the man behind keeping our plant running smoothly every single day. This is just a photograph of it. So y'all feel free to stop me along the way if you have any questions. If they're really hard questions, I'm going to defer them to them. So, but I'm really glad to be here with you guys today. This is Mr. Thomas's main principal job every day, is to take the raw wastewater that you see on your left-hand side and turn it into something that we can discharge back into the receiving stream there at Hollis Creek in a way that is compatible and compliant with our state regulatory authority, which is NDEQ. We have certain requirements, and Mr. Thomas does a wonderful job. That is the whole purpose of the plant, to protect the environment, protect the downstream property owners and the public, and be responsible stewards of that. So we've been doing that for about 45 years. So the plant was initially built in 1979. Came online around 1979, 1980. And as y'all know, Starkville and Oktibbeha County have changed quite a bit in the last 45 years. This is just a projection of what the growth has looked like over that time period, over a 60% growth during that time period. And obviously, we're all hopeful that that trajectory continues to go up in the future. And that was part of what this study was all about, to assess where we are today, what our needs were, but also prepare for the future. We kicked this study off back in around July of last year. It's been a very extensive, detailed study. It's been very eye-opening in some ways. Some things that we found were not necessarily surprising, but that's what today is about, is to present to you guys what that looks like. This is kind of what the flow has looked like for the last 10 years. As you can see, it's very sporadic. Based on the nature of this is a function of weather, believe it or not. Obviously, it's a function of population, how many people are connected to the system, but also if you have seasons of a lot of rainfall and you have old piping systems that have cracks in them that will allow the rainwater in there, those can definitely cause the wastewater loads to go up. So that's what our high period has been in the last 10 years. And so that's what it looks like over that 8-year period. Our plant original design capacity is about 5 million gallons. So that kind of shows you where we are, where we stand with our original design. Like I said, we wanted to prepare ourselves well and position ourselves well in the future. And so what we did is we took a 20-year look ahead, and that was kind of our design objective as part of this project, and say what do we need to start doing, what do we need to be working on in the next 5 to 10 years to prepare ourselves for what that flow looks like. So we think that the flow projection needs to be almost close to 7 million gallons a day in 2044. Obviously, that can change, and this is not a static number. This document has to adjust as our community changes. So that's what we think right now. That's what our target is going to be. So Mr. Thomas can talk offline about this, but there is no one single thing that you can do to make sure that the plant is operating well and within the permanent compliance. 3 things that we looked at are the capacity, that is the amount of flow going through it, the condition, that's the condition of all the components and parts of the plant, and the reliability, how well it's going to perform. And so we didn't want to focus on any single one of those things, because if you do, it's going to make the whole, even 2 of those would make the whole thing weak. So we looked at them all individually, but also realized that they're all interconnected. So here's kind of what we're gonna go through today. Background of the wastewater treatment plant. This is out on the end of Sand Road, if you guys are familiar with where that is, kind of off of Louisville Street. This is our wastewater treatment facility. And I'll kind of walk you through. If any of y'all are ever interested in taking a tour, me and Mr. Thomas will be happy to give you a tour. Mr. Thomas is a wonderful tour guide and kind of walk you through some of the details. This is the timeline of those improvements that we've made since originally in 1979. As you can see, not a lot of capital investment has been made since the original construction. And what that looks like, everything in green is original, back to 45 years ago. And then in 1998, we added another clarifier. And then in 2002, a little over 20 years ago, we replaced all the brush rotors in the oxidation ditches, and then had to do that again in 2019. And then in 2019, we also added that area up in purple in the top right, which is our dewatering sludge removal process. So that's kind of the timeline of the investments that have been made. The current project we're working on is, well, I'll show you that in just a second. So this is the overall kind of what the plan looks like in the timeline. So when we did the assessment, we looked at two major components, condition and capacity. And I'll talk to you why you have to look at both of those a little bit as we go forward. But condition, if you think about that, is how well is the machinery in the plant operating. Capacity is how much can it take and stay within our permitting guidelines. So we'll talk about condition first. We evaluated about between 15 and 20 of the major processes and mechanical components of the plant, and we went through each of those, did a very deep dive into all the electrical components, all the different types of parts, pumps, mechanical gears, and then also if it had any structural components, we wanted to make sure that it was in good shape. So really a deep assessment into each of those, because we wanted to basically see how old it was, what condition it was in. We wanted to ultimately understand how likely it was to fail, because that's when you start getting into when the replacement time needs to occur. So when you look at the condition, you need to look at two things. Likelihood of failure, that is, if you equate it to an old car, how long do you think it's going to continue? And not to say that it can't keep running, but it has a higher likelihood the longer you drive. So in addition to likelihood of failure, we also wanted to look at how easily is it to get replacement parts. If we have a pump that's from 1979 that goes out, how easy is it going to be to get a new replacement or a part that goes for that pump? So that goes into the likelihood of failure. And then the consequence of failure is if this particular component or process breaks down and stops working, what does that do? What does that do to the overall plant? What does that do to the overall environment? What does that do to our staff? What does that do in our permit obligations? So you have to look at both of those. And in that exercise, you have one axis is the likelihood of failure from a low priority going up to higher, and then the consequences from a lower to the right. And so what you do is you go through and you plot the likelihood of each and the consequence of each, and where it falls on this overall graph is basically how you prioritize those improvements. And at the end of the day, it all comes back down to risk. So of those different processes, this is where they all fell. We used a pretty industry accepted tool to do this, and as you can see, all of those plotted there. Everything in red is at critical risk, so those are the highest priorities. Everything in orange is a high risk, so those need to be addressed and taken care of in an imminent way. And then as you go down into the yellow and green is lower risk. So what does that look like? Well, we have a lot of red and a lot of yellow and a lot of orange on our wastewater treatment plant. So this is kind of what it looks like. So that's the condition, and then we need to look at capacity. Because when you're planning for improvements, you need to plan for replacing old things or things that have a high likelihood of failure, but you also need to plan for the future of those things while you're replacing them. What things do you need to do to prepare yourself for the future? And so that's what the capacity experience was looking at. And this dark black line over here on the far right is our existing capacity. So you say, well, why does it move around? So each of those different lines is a major process of the wastewater treatment plant. So you can't look at the plant overall. You can get an overall capacity, but really you need to drill down one level more and get a capacity of each of those processes. Basically, the weakest link is going to drive what your plant capacity is. So as you can see, especially there, anywhere that there's a gap between the bar and the black line shows that there's a gap in capacity. That shows you that we need to increase the ability of those things to perform at a higher level in order to meet what that requirement is, that 10 million gallons a day or the 4.86 million gallons a day just for the oxidation ditches. So you can see we're short on headworks, screening, headworks removal, oxidation ditches, and secondary clarification. That's where we currently are. That's where our current flow capacities are. This isn't really looking forward out into the future. I'll show you a slide of that in just a minute. So when we're trying to prioritize the projects, we're looking at condition, those that are critical high risk, and we're also looking at capacity, and there is a balance. You can't just invest in only one type of project or the other. It's going to provide a little out of balance. So these are our 6 different packages. These are outlined more in your final report. Each of these has a price tag. These are based on today's dollars. Package A is what we're currently working on and designing right now. That's the new oxidation dishes, updating of all the site electrical, and updating of our chlorine room. That's just right around $9.5 million. So again, these are projects that we need to tackle over the next 10 years or so in a synchronized way, and these are again all based on today's dollars. And if we do that, then this is kind of what the end result will look like. So you can see on the critical standpoint, everything is moved back into the green and yellow from a risk standpoint. And then from a capacity standpoint, you can see not only are we over, but we are exceeding what that future peak flow looks like. This is not something we're going to be able to do overnight. This is something we're going to have to work on and be very diligent about. But again, this is the target, that 7 million gallons a day. That's going to be our future peak flow, and that's what we're investing and working toward. So the recommendations and conclusions, Mr. Thomas and his guys do a wonderful job out there. They have 6 dedicated full-time staff members that do nothing but manage the wastewater treatment plant or off-site lift stations. It's going to continue to operate well with his staff. Identified many of the critical assets, as y'all saw, are in the critical state phase. A lot of them are still original to the 1979 installation. Getting a lot of growth in the area, and we need to prepare for that growth, because that growth is going to challenge our current environment. 6 different packages, as I just outlined, and then we have in the interim period of time some recommendations from the consultants on flows until we can get better, our first project essentially online. And then the main takeaway too is we need to look at this on an annual basis to make sure that it's updated. So that's the end of the presentation. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
The new project would double capacity, basically. Is that a fair way to say that?
The new project is replacement of our aerators, updating our site electrical, and adding some improvements to the chlorine. We use chlorine gas for final disinfectant. As y'all know, chlorine gas is very toxic. And so we're making some improvements to make it safer for our staff. So having some alarms and some different ways to have redundancy checks there. It will not, the first $9.5 million project will not double the capacity. We're going to have to get through, I believe, the third package before we see significant capacity improvements. But certainly what will help, having the oxidation ditches fully operational as designed, that will certainly move the needle on the capacity and give us some breathing room until we're able to do the next project.
Will y'all be in a position to accept all of the current needs from the university and the county from a sewer standpoint after that first level, or would we need to wait until the second or third level for that to happen?
That's a good question. I don't know the answer to that, but that is certainly something we're cognizant of and working toward. We're also trying to evaluate that recommendation for the next year and a half or so, that 100,000 gallons per year of new connections added on. Trying to do that in a thoughtful way.
But you've said that you're already taking in more than what your system is designed to handle.
Yes, sir.
So in theory, that would mean that you're not going to accept any new connection until you get this.
Well, our consultant thinks that we have a very small amount of breathing room. That's the 100,000 gallons per year new connections for the next 2 years until we're able to get the first project online.
Regardless of where it comes from.
Regardless of where it comes from. And so, where we are in that timeline, we are in full design mode right now for that first package. We're going to meet the middle of August timeline, which is a MCWI, basically the match money from the state, has an obligation date of the end of August, and we have to meet that for those funds to be eligible. So we'll have the project bid and hopefully awarded by the end of August, and then our goal is to have it constructed within the next 18 months. Let me stand over here so.
So, I guess, the way I understand it, the first phase that you're putting in now will actually give you the capacity to treat the increased flow in the future.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir. Because as you can think about, some of these projects are at different stages. You know, if you sign off on a project today, it actually may not be built for 9 months or a year, but you still have to account for that.
All right, and I wanted to ask, because I wanted to make it clear on what you were saying, for the funds, like when you said there's an August deadline for the funds that y'all are using. I know with the ARPA funds, that deadline, is, December 31st, for ARPA funds to be committed. Y'all have an earlier deadline. Could you
Yes.
tell me that
thank
one
you.
more time?
So the state offered, jump in here if I get off course, for certain types of projects, eligibility, water, wastewater, storm drainage. If you use your ARPA funding for those types of projects, you can apply for a 100% match from the state. MCWI, I think it stands for.
I'm not even gonna try. I messed it up.
Water, it's
Water infrastructure.
Yeah.
So, the MCWI, the state match funding, which is the state's allocation of the ARPA money, is my understanding. Their obligation deadline is the end of August. So there's a process where you have to apply for the funds, you get awarded the match, then you have to update your grant allocation towards that. I believe the December 31st is correct if you are just using the ARPA funding for non-eligible projects. But there is the August 31st deadline for the match, which is kind of the critical path for us.
So y'all's funding mechanism consists of what? Grant funds? Will there be, I guess, some type of fee restructuring on the existing person? And then you all gonna look at what are your funding sources as far as you look at?
I think it's going to be all of the above. And you saw the numbers; they're big.
they're necessary. So certainly there'll be an effort to apply for external funding, grants, appropriations. Certainly will be an effort to apply for low interest loans. We've already done that through the revolving loan fund. Certainly there will be an effort likely to evaluate our rates to make sure that they're consistent in order for us to continue to do what we need to do.
The memorandum of understanding that we signed at the last board meeting, I believe that was for federal dollars, application for federal dollars. Not you correct me if I'm wrong. And how many dollars do you think is going to be awarded as a result of that memorandum of understanding that we agreed to support?
Yes, sir. We did through the STAG grant, and that's another acronym. I don't know the full name of it, but it's a federal congressional appropriation grant. Our highest priority was the wastewater treatment plant, and we applied for, how much did we apply for at the STAG?
I think around
$7 million for that. I wouldn't want to speculate about how much we will get. As you know, the county was successful in the last application. It was for water. And that request was made about a year and a half ago. It was really before all of this came to the forefront. And I believe we applied for, I think we applied for around $4 million and got $2.5 million.
We continue on with the process that with all phases being completed, given the understanding that somehow funding will come aboard, when do you think we have all phases completed? What is the goal for that? We would like to have some development taking place in the county, and would like to know what type of goals we need to work toward to be able to increase the flow of wastewater coming into.
Yeah, and I think that's a difficult question to answer, and I'll tell you this way. That's why I really believe that this document is a living, malleable document, because you have to be able to adjust and assess the new needs and the new requests that come in. It's easy to project out a straight line, but we know that that's not how it's going to be. I will say that the 6 packages outlined today are setting the stage for the next 20 years. So we don't have to do all of those right away. For example, the last package is a new oxidation ditch. That's the large oval-shaped chamber that was at the bottom of the photograph. We don't need that today. We don't need a new oxidation ditch today. But as that growth curve continues to go up, it will be triggered at some point in the future. I don't know if that's 10 years from now, 12, 15 years from now, but it's good to go ahead and start planning for it, and that's what we're doing. I think the most immediate needs are the first 3 packages. That's where you really can start having a lot more breathing room and capacity for new developments.
Because that first package was what, a little over $9 million?
Right.
Which I'm working on now.
As right now, you said you've got a small amount of capacity to accept other customers on. That's coming from the county or wherever. But if you don't get this done, at some point you're not going to be able to accept any.
At the end of the day, we have to maintain our permit compliance, right? We have to sign off on this every single month that we're doing our best. Mr. Thomas and his guys do everything we can, but I don't think it's reasonable to say we're going to continue to add new flows, but we're not going to invest in the system to try to improve it and give him the tools that he needs to do. So, yeah, I think that you framed it well in that question, but I would say that the ability not to grow is not an option either.
How much of existing rainwater are we capturing in this, and how much is that taken away from our capacity? Because we are changing out a lot of the lines currently. There's new lines that are being changed out with the federal dollars. Now, that's probably a fraction of how much water is actually leaking into the system currently. If we were able to start eliminating as much of that as possible, would that help? Obviously, that would help with the capacity of what we can take on.
It would. Yeah, ultimately it would.
Do we have any idea what that looks like?
Well, part of the strategy in the third package, Package C, is to build what they call equalization basin. That is think about it as a large detention pond upstream. And during those high peaking events, the high rainfall events, you're actually, you're discharging or diverting some of the flow over that and temporarily holding it and then bringing it back online during a regular flow event. So I think it's going to be hard to eliminate all the what we call I&I infiltration into that piping system. It certainly is worth the effort. We've been doing a lot of that here in town as well. But I think that's just going to be an inevitable thing, especially as those systems
regardless
age.
some of it.
Right. Yeah. So that was our strategy on how to resolve that. But that's gonna really make a big impact because think about even a large peak weekend, like a big football weekend. You have a peak flow that comes in, you're able to take some of that pressure off, and then Mr. Thomas and his crew can treat it later on in the week.
Okay.
But I guess you can look at historical rain analysis for this county or for this area. Under normal circumstances, I guess you can kind of make some suggestions about how much rain you'll get. Of course, you know with this climate change and other things, to this pinpoint, it'll give you somewhat of an idea about how much you could expect.
They did a deep dive into peak flow determination, and they look at flows on daily flow, weekly flow, and monthly flow. And the science is well beyond my knowledge and education, but I know that they did do a deep dive into that, and that's how they arrived at that 4.7 MGD. Is what the capacity is. So they did 10 years worth of historical data into that.
This might be way off topic, but there are some plants that can treat wastewater to be reusable even to the point of consumption. How far away are we from that? he's shaking his head back there.
You can clean it as much as you want to, but I wouldn't drink it. But I think they put it back in the ground and filter it and then pump it back out of the ground before they actually use it for consumption.
Okay. I was just wondering, I've seen some studies on that.
It's all a function of money.
Yeah.
How much more do you want to spend to treat it to a higher level?
Well, we got enough underground wells to be able to pump potable drinking water rather than to reuse treatable water.
These were in these states where they experienced a lot of drought and things
Right.
like that. Yeah.
Well, a real reality, Supervisor Howard, is that we don't know over the next 20 years of what the permit requirements may change. So, I mean, it's a realistic thing that the DEQ may come back and say, hey, your cleaning requirements are now higher, so you need to do these other things. And that's a real possibility, and we need to be prepared and be able to address that.
Is there a possibility of wastewater being turned loose in some of the surrounding creeks and flowing through some of the community before it's being treated thoroughly? I know sometimes we get a smell in the community that kind of indicates that wastewater maybe did not go through the process the way it should have.
There certainly could be a possibility of that, especially during high rain events where the system gets overwhelmed by rainwater. But there's a certain protocol and process if we are aware of an overflow that we follow according to our permit requirements. Now I can't speak for outside of our jurisdiction.
Anything else?
Where do we go from here? I know we got a lot of different moving parts going on. I know you've been working on some stuff. I'm just curious to see if you get all
I'll tell you, sewer is probably the least sexy thing I've ever seen in my life to deal with. And we got, look, the truth is, we got two issues going on. We got water issues going on. We've got sewer issues going on. They're interconnected in the fact that you got to do something with the used water, regardless of what goes on. I think that the general consensus has been at some point that the county's going to have. I would love to see us go to I'd love to see us go into a one utility, whether it be sewer or water, and I think Mr. Pysock informed me of a lot of the information that goes along with even setting that up. Our goal as a county should be, whether it be partnering up with the city at some point and making certain that sewer and water is dealt with, but our goal should be to get rid of all of our little water associations, not because we're against them, but because we're rehashing things over and over again, and it's a lot more expensive to run a rural water association than it would be to have one utility system that the county's using. These are things that are going to take
legislation.
Well, some of it's going to take legislation, but some of it's just going to take time. You've got a lot of. I mean, I grew up in Longview. I'll use Longview for my example. Longview had the same little water association, and still has the same water association it had whenever I was a kid. They do a great job. The problem is that as we further go along, this stuff gets expensive. As we see, this sewer stuff that we're talking about is exceedingly expensive. I'll be honest with you, I started learning a little bit of this about a year ago. I'm nowhere near where we need to be in terms of moving us in a direction, but we are going to have to decide. I mean, if we're not going to build our own system, which I doubt very seriously that we will, because it's just so expensive, we're going to have to partner up with the city of Starkville and become a customer or become a partner, whatever we want to call it. And I don't know the answer to that, because it's not just one little area, it's the entire county that is eventually going to have to go to a system. And we can't just keep doing what we're doing. I mean, look, Longview, up until the last few years, I could take you to places out there that had sewer going into the system. You talk about the smell, I could tell you where some of that smell's coming from. So we're going to have to do something, and that's just not good for our economic development purposes, and it's certainly not good for our children working and playing out. It's an absolute health issue. So to answer your question, we are a long way off from having what I would consider a suitable fix. I do think that working with the city is a way, about the only way I can think of that we can move forward with this. I just can't think of another way without us spending, what do y'all got developed into that right now? 20 million, 30 million?
I think if you built that plant today, it would be over 100 million.
Okay, I'm sorry, I'm significantly under. So I just don't see that.
44 million just to make the improvements today.
It's like Fred Sanford over here. It's the big one.
And not only that, but then the ongoing operational costs.
Right. So I don't know the reality is we don't have $100 million. Y'all know that better than I do. So we've got to make some decisions as to how we're going to approach this, and we're going to have to make some decisions as to how we support the water and sewer systems that are out there. And it's a two-pronged approach. I mean, you can't look at one without looking at the other, and it's complicated, especially when you start dealing with changing and people who are not going to be happy with the things that we're looking at because they've been over it for so long. There are a lot of these water associations that have been operating for the last 50, 60 years that, bless their hearts, they've done a dang good job, but that's not going to be something that's appropriate for the next 50 or 60 years.
We donated $1 million, which aren't matching dollars from the state. So in fact, $2 million we donated toward treatment of wastewater. I wish we could do more. What would that 2 million be used toward?
It'll
And
be
that's
toward the first project.
First project?
Yes, sir. We have, around 1.25 million from the city's ARPA, which we've got matched to get 2.5. Adding 2 million more will get us to 4.5, and we think that first project is around 9.5 million. So we'll have to figure out the rest of it, but we're committed to the project. We don't really have any alternative, because we're right now working with temporary aerators. For those of y'all that don't know, that's not a long-term solution. We need to get permanent aerators in there.
Well, we certainly believe the allocation to the city would help with
Yes, sir.
moving this project forward, and just felt like it would help the people that live in the city limits along with the people that live
Yes, sir.
out in the county, because we're having a partner to treat that sewage. So
Yes, sir.
we certainly do appreciate it. Is there anything else? Supervisor Carver, can you hear us?
No, sir.
Okay. Well, thank you
Thank
so
you.
much, Mr.
Thank you
Kemp,
for your
coming.
support.
Can we get a motion
Knowledge.
Motion from Supervisor Williams to acknowledge the report, second from Supervisor Train, all in favor?
Thank you.
Motion passes unanimously. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Mr. Collins, road manager's report.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Okay, I think y'all should have a road manager report in front of you. If there's any questions.
I wanted to ask just briefly, make sure that I knew, because when I got it over the weekend, I was just kind of looking just to see if my people, what was in there. It's like on here, this entails everything that they've done every month.
Well, it doesn't really, because some of the stuff, this report is generated probably about a week out. So the
Okay.
last part of the month, you won't see that. It'll be in next month's report. It's hard to generate it and have everything in it at the first of the month. Yeah, and it's a couple of things that some of the guys have actually missed because they didn't capture it. Like, there's a few things that get by us, but basically the main stuff is there.
Perfect. Thank you very much.
Supervisor Carver, do you have any questions for our road manager?
No, sir. Just thanks for the good work.
They do a ton of work, we appreciate it.
Okay, a few other things. One of them is,
Can we get
Make a motion to approve the road manager report.
motion by Supervisor Train, second by Supervisor Williams to approve road manager report, all in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously.
okay, first thing on our agenda, we need to get approval to advertise for the equipment that we have talked about. And I can give you a detail if you need it on what we're going to advertise for first.
We have funds in place, so it's on motion that we advertise for the equipment that we approve.
Motion by Supervisor Williams, second by Supervisor Little, that we allow road manager to advertise for the equipment, all in favor? Motion passes unanimously.
Next thing on the list, we have our skid steer rental renewal for this month. I'd like to get approval to make that renewal.
Motion by Supervisor Williams, second by Supervisor Train, all in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously.
Okay, next thing, we have actually run out of trees on our plan to cut trees, and I guess we're down to, we need to rebid that.
Yes, that would be the proper.
I need approval to advertise and for rebid on the tree cutting for approximately 120 additional trees.
Okay. We need a motion Motion by Supervisor Train, second by Supervisor Williams. All in favor? Motion passes unanimously. I've got one on West Reed Road I need to add to that list.
Okay. All right. That's why we went back and did the additional 120. That's to cover what we don't know about.
120?
Yes, sir. Okay, I have a covered request for Mr. Willie Brooks. It's on Cedar Lane, but his address is gonna be 116 Kumquat Lane, and that's Crawford, Mississippi.
Make a motion to approve it.
Motion by Supervisor Train, second by Supervisor Little. All in favor? Motion passes unanimously.
Also, we have a covered request for Andrea and Corey Brown at 3831 Wade Road, I'm sorry.
So moved. Motion by Supervisor Howard, second by Supervisor Little. All in favor? Motion passes
Say the
unanimously.
address again.
3831 Wade Road. That's all. Okay, we also, Supervisor Carver and I went out and looked at, we have a request from the Cross for Christ organization for covered extensions on Longview Road. I'm sorry, had a mind left. And I coming to the board with on that, and if you would, attorney, just.
All right, here's the issue. The length of the culvert that is currently there is, it needs to be covered up further. There's no doubt it needs to be covered up. The problem that we may end up having is that we've already, if this were another business or a private person in the past, we have asked them to supply the extensions. And I'm not trying to tell y'all what to do or not to do, but what I am saying is that our position in the past has been for a business or a private individuals, they have to purchase whenever they have, because this is an awful long distance. This is a lot longer, a lot bigger than what most culverts cover. So there's an additional cost involved in this that we don't typically cover. And my knee jerk is that they should provide the culvert and let us, like we normally do, go back in and cover it up and everything. But I don't know that we can add to, because what's going to happen is we're going to end up having to have another culvert of, what was it?
Well, they're actually going to end up putting two. By the time we do the extension, we actually going to use two 20-foot culverts plus 4 vans, and a cost of about $1,200–1,300 just in covers.
That's not what we've done in the past, and I'm afraid that we're going to get into a situation where, and I realize the significance of this. I'm not unaware of what this is. It's a nonprofit. However, it's going to put us in a situation to where if we're doing it for them, we're going to have to do it for others.
But at the same time, if they take it upon themselves to go do it and create a problem, like I think we're dealing with one now, it's going to cause us even, because this is on public right of way.
It is on public right of way, and what I thought we might do is let them purchase the culvert and let us do the work. That was my thought.
That's what we normally do. I motion that we stay consistent to what we've been doing in the past, and that is they purchase the cover and we put it in.
It's been motioned by Supervisor Williams that we allow the owner to purchase the cover and the county furnish the material to install it. Second by Supervisor Train. All in favor? Motion passes unanimously.
Okay, also, I know we did an approval for different training, but I have worked to get training along with some help from our administrator, finding someone to do foreman training, workplace training, incident training. So we have found someone. We have scheduled the class for April the 23rd. We asking board approval on this class. The only thing we'll have to purchase is workbooks for this in the amount of $285.
Make a motion to approve the request.
It's been motioned by Supervisor Trainer, second by Supervisor Little, that we approve the training request. All in favor? Motion passes unanimously.
Because I said there was, another culvert request for Daniel Thompson.
Okay. Alright, yes, I have that, that's in, Morgantown Road, and let me see if I can get you the address real quick. I didn't write it on the sheet.
Daniel Thompson.
Morgantown Road, I'm gonna give you an address on that. Sorry about that, I had so much going on last week. Okay.
I think that's another Longview boy. Is Davey still lives out there? That's not familiar. Lowell Thompson's a Davey. Can I get a second on that?
Second.
And I'll get you the address on it.
It's been moved by Supervisor Little, second by Supervisor Trainer, for culvert installment. All in favor? Motion passes unanimously.
The last thing, we've been looking at trying to find in-house to find someone for the position of foreman out at one of our shops, and we have did interviews. Supervisor Trainer sit in on one, and I think with the Rob help, we may need to kind of.
Do we need to go into executive session to discuss a personnel issue?
Yeah, I think so.
Do y'all want to do that now, or do you want to wait till later?
We can go into that. Need a motion to go into closed session to determine if we need to go into executive session. Motion by Supervisor Williams, second by Supervisor Little. All in favor? Motion passes unanimously.
All right, you're going to have to come back in here in a second after. This is a personnel issue, and it will be. Trying to save him a second. Since this is a personnel issue dealing with a foreman's issue and personnel records, I need a motion to go into executive session. I don't want him to have to turn this on and off so he can be done.
Okay. Got a motion by Supervisor Williams, second by Supervisor Little, that we move into executive session to discuss personnel issues.
All right, you're done.
All in favor? Motion.
So you don't need me back? Is that what you're saying?
You're good. I just need to make sure it was said on that thing.